alone to cover funeral costs.
Court can order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2009, Jenny Spencer versus Jenny.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Spencer, are you related to Mr. Jennings?
I am.
How?
He's my cousin.
How?
On our dad's side. So his father and my father, that's how we're related.
How were they related?
So his dad and my father are pretty close in age, but they are cousins themselves. But my dad is pretty young, so they're close. My dad and his father are close in age, so they were more like brothers.
I still don't understand.
My father and his father were first cousins, but I was raised by my grandparents, so that's why we're close.
Okay, so your fathers were first cousins?
Yes.
Okay. Your mother passed away.
Yes, ma'am.
When?
Mother's Day on 2020.
Were you close to your mother?
I was very close.
Did you live together?
I was taking care of her for 8 years while she was...
So you were living with her?
Yes, ma'am.
How old was she when she passed away?
58.
What did she pass away from?
Her arteries had blockage. She had surgery twice, and they couldn't do the third surgery. Plus, she had 3 strokes.
When you were taking care of your mother, was that a full-time responsibility?
Full-time. She had a colostomy bag, and plus she was in a walker before she had the strokes.
Was it just you and your mother living together?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it in her home?
It was in my home.
In your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that an apartment?
It was a house.
That you rented?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you and your mother support yourself?
I'm an RF technician, so I worked when I could be away from home, but when she got real bad sick, where she couldn't even walk, I couldn't even work, so I couldn't even go out of town. So I work on the road a lot. And she gets a disability check, which is about $1,800, which wasn't much at all for us to survive.
Are you back at work now?
Yes, ma'am.
Who are you working for?
Myself. I'm a contractor, Extreme Communications.
When your mother passed away, Mr. Jennings, are you an only child?
Yes, ma'am.
She passed away in the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, you didn't have money for her funeral arrangements.
No, ma'am.
And you didn't have the funds to even take her body out of the hospital.
No, ma'am.
So what did you do?
Well, I thought I had insurance settlement, and I was going to take care of that, because she did have 2 burial plots. But when we went to...
Who's we?
Me and Angela.
Who is Angela?
She's my fiance. But when we went up there to... we've got 2 burial plots. When we went there to turn those in mortuary, they added on $10,000 or $15,000 to actually bury her. And I was unable to do that because her insurance had lapsed 2 or 3 months. You know.
So you didn't have money to take care of your mother's funeral expenses?
I did not.
Do you want to tell me how the plaintiff got involved with that?
I told Tracy exactly what... Yes.
At some point, your mother passed away on Mother's Day in 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you contact Miss Spencer, or did she contact you?
She contacted me.
When?
During the process of me suffering because I didn't have the cash to front my mother's funeral.
Well, you know, it's hard for me to ask the question, how did she know about that? But
yes, ma'am.
Were there other relatives?
I was posting things on Facebook.
Okay. So what did you post on Facebook?
That I was trying to do a GoFundMe to help with my mother's funeral.
And how much after she died did you post something on Facebook?
Nothing much, not at all.
A day, 2 days?
About 3 or 4 days after.
Did you see that? Is that why you contacted him?
That is not why I contacted him.
Okay, so why don't you tell me why? That's not what you said in your papers, so I'm curious. Why did you contact him?
As he said, his mother had been sick for quite some time, so her death wasn't completely unexpected. We had been following her progression on Facebook, and Chris is correct. He had been taking care of his mother. They were very close. But when the family saw on Facebook that she had passed, nothing got posted about funeral arrangements. And some of the members of my family who were not on Facebook contacted me and said,
"Don't tell me what they said to you."
Sorry.
So you were contacted by members of your family?
Correct, that are not on Facebook, asking about care.
Don't tell me what they asked.
I'm sorry.
As a result of those conversations, did you contact him?
Eventually. I did not contact him immediately because I just didn't feel like it was the right time. I knew.
When? Was it in June?
So it was right after her passing. I contacted his stepbrother and stepsister first because when I had not seen anything for 3 days about funeral arrangements, rather than calling Chris, who I knew would have his hands full handling matters, I actually contacted his stepbrother and stepsister And I said, do you know anything about funeral arrangements?
Nobody did.
And so they didn't know anything and suggested that I reach out to Chris. I said, well, I hate to do that. This is a really bad time, but I did it anyway. And so I called Chris and I said, Chris, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're going through a lot, but some people are asking me about your mother's arrangements and I don't know what to tell them. It's been several days. Have you picked out a mortuary? And he started crying immediately, understandably so. He said, Tracy, I'll be honest with you. I don't even have the money to get her out of the hospital. He said, it's going to cost $500 to get her out. I said, okay. And I believed without a shadow of a doubt that he truly didn't have the money because they had a very tight relationship. So there was no question in my mind if he had the $500 to get her out, he would have. I said, Chris, it's okay. I'll loan you the money. I'll call the hospital. I'll take care of it. Just calm down. And so we hung up. I called the hospital and I told them, I said, I'm not next of kin, but I'm going to take care of this matter on behalf of my cousin. So here's my credit card for $500. And the morgue told me that I couldn't pay $500, that was only their portion of having her body released from the morgue, that they could only send her body to a funeral home.
They have to send it someplace. If they're releasing it, they have to send it someplace.
Correct. They said that she had been there for so long that she needed to go within the next day because they can only stay there for 5 days. And
Got it.
Sorry. Okay. So they said she needs to go now. And if you don't come get her or have a funeral home come get her, we're going to have to send her to Spartanburg County and they're going to be in charge of her remains. And the next of kin is at risk of being arrested for abandonment. And so I freaked out. I called Chris back. I said, Chris, I said, it's not $500. I said, they're not going to let us get her. And do you know you're close to being arrested? And, you know, I felt really bad about that.
Where do you live?
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Just take a look and see if you can find out next of kin responsibility. I'm surprised that you were given that information from the hospital, but I may be wrong.
Morgue.
About that.
Yes. So I called Chris and I said, the morgue is not going to let us get her body without a funeral home. Do you have a funeral home picked out? And I think at that time he said he didn't. And so he made some phone calls, Chris did, and then he called me back and he said, I found a mortuary. And so the mortuary that he selected was the one that ended up taking care of her remains. And so instead of me loaning him $500 to get her released from the hospital, I ended up getting stuck with $1,500 because I had to pay the mortuary.
Okay. He found a mortuary.
Yes, ma'am.
When you called the mortuary, did they tell you what it would cost?
I didn't call the mortuary to find out anything about that. She did. She agreed to pay everything.
No, just a second. I'm not getting there.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not there yet.
Yes, ma'am.
So the question is, did you call the mortuary?
I called them to see if they could take care of my mother.
That's what I asked you. I said, did you
Yes.
call the mortuary?
Yes, ma'am.
And after you spoke to the mortuary, you called the plaintiff back.
Sure did.
Okay. When you called the mortuary and she had already told you it would be $500 to get your mother's remains from the morgue, but then you had to take her remains someplace. You couldn't take them in your car.
Right.
They had to go someplace.
Yes, ma'am.
And common sense would suggest that you would ask what their cost was, what their fee was. Is not an answer.
For cremation.
For whatever, and they told you it was how much?
They told me for the cremation, it was about $1,500 for cremation.
Okay, and then you called your cousin back.
Yes.
And let me hear the conversation, as you recall it, between yourself and your cousin.
Okay. I called her back and told her that I didn't have the money to take care of that. She goes, don't worry about it, Chris. I'll take care of it. It's exactly what was said.
Now, was that before or after you set up a GoFundMe page?
That was before.
So she took care of the bill?
Yes.
So this was 5 days after
No,
your
the
mother's
Go-
death? Shh.
Yeah.
You said it was after. Now, so it was 5 or 6 days before your mother's body was taken to the funeral home for the purposes of cremation. How many days after that did you start a GoFundMe page?
A couple days.
2 days. And what was the language in the GoFundMe page?
To help take care of my mother's funeral.
Well,
And
well,
expenses.
shh, Mr. Jennings, if what you just said to me previously was Read back to me, Whitney, what Mr. Jennings said about the conversation that he had with her. It started with, "Don't worry about it."
He said, okay, I called her back and told her that I didn't have the money to take care of that. She said, don't worry about it, Chris. I'll take care of it. That's exactly what was said.
Okay, good. So if she said she would take care of it, why would you post an outcry for money from strangers to bury your mother?
To go during the process of getting that money is exactly
No. Let's follow what you said, Mr. Jennings. What you told me was that you had the conversation, she took care of the bill. 2 or 3 days later, you started a GoFundMe page for your mother's funeral expenses. Is that not what he said?
Yes.
If it was a gift to you, I'm not understanding why you would start a GoFundMe page.
It's because it wasn't taken care of within 2 or 3 days, ma'am.
What do you mean it wasn't taken care of?
She didn't pay the bill within 2 or 3 days is the thing. That's the reason I did that.
Well, they wouldn't release they wouldn't release the body unless they got paid with a credit card.
I understand that, but I was trying
Just
to
a
have
second.
backup.
A backup for what?
Just in case you didn't fall through.
Mr. Jennings, now you're getting cute with me.
No, ma'am.
Now you're getting cute with me.
And later today,
He said to you,
I need to borrow $2,300.
and you said to him,
Why can't you ask anybody else?
and he said to you,
His girlfriend's father, if he were to ask him, he would pry and find out that he was addicted to cocaine.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Tracy and Chris.
Tracy Jennings Spencer says her cousin, Chris Jennings, owes for a loan to cover his mother's funeral costs. Chris claims it was a gift.
now, the plaintiff had to give the hospital her credit card. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So before they released the body, which they had to do within a day, they had her credit card. And it wasn't until after that that you started a GoFundMe page. Okay. And don't raise your hand. And how much money did you receive from this GoFundMe page?
Like $200.
Okay. And you received $200 within what period of time?
Within probably 3 weeks.
How much of that $200 did you give to Miss Spencer?
0.
And your total cost was $1,500. Is that correct? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
This court is adjourned.
Tracy, then Chris.
Well, I'm very pleased that she saw what really did happen.
I think everything went exactly as planned.
I tried to step up in a time of desperation and an emergency situation, and look where it got me.
Everything's fine.
I think we'll be able to move past. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still my cousin, he's still my blood, and I'm always going to love him.
Judy and Sarah.
I actually didn't need the answer to that question that I threw out at you with regard to whether a child is responsible for the remains of their parent, because it was just clear, you know, when you get them to do a timeline for you.
A lot of stuff unravels.
It all unraveled because what was the reason for starting a GoFundMe page if, as he alleged in his answer, she volunteered to pay for the funeral, unless he felt an obligation. Now, the obligation had to be as a result of that conversation that he would start a GoFundMe page. Anyway, unfortunate that she seemed like a very nice lady, very responsible, and she was very caring towards him.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have ended up here.
Case number 2010, Hickman versus Vensloff. All parties, please step forward.
Vanessa Hickman is suing her trainer, Dylan Vensloff, for an unpaid loan.
Ms. Hickman, your case is relatively simple. You claim that you made a loan to the defendant, who was your personal trainer, when he said he was in a financial bind and he needed rent money, and he made the loan. And he paid some. His wife paid some.
Correct.
He made a couple of payments, but there is still a substantial balance.
Correct.
Mr. Vensloff said that this was not a loan, but prepayment for his training services, and that you sort of backed out of the training/nutrition program. So that's your problem. You lose your money. That's your defense, right?
Yes.
Just curious, before I get started with this case, how much do you get per hour for personal training? No, don't look over there. I want you to know that I know all about this. Everybody that I know except me has a personal trainer. I work out every day. I don't take instruction well, so I don't have a personal trainer. I have a husband who had a personal trainer. All my friends have personal trainers. So now I want you to answer my question, unless there's something extraordinary about you, which there is not. How much do you get per hour for personal training?
$75.
That's a reasonable figure. Just informational purposes. How much money did you take from Miss Hickman?
How much money did I take?
Yes, how much money did you take from me? I haven't decided what it's for, but money exchanged between you, she has proof of how much it was, and you. How much money?
I believe it was $2,300.
Is that right?
Correct.
And on what date did she give you $2,300?
I believe sometime at the end of last year, or it was close to the beginning of this year, somewhere along that time.
Date.
November 22nd, 2021.
And at that time, how long had you been training her? Since when? When did you start with her as a client?
I think like the beginning of summer last year, so I'd say...
Date.
July 2021.
Beginning, middle, or end?
Beginning.
July, August, September, October. So you had been training her for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Up until November 22nd, how much money had she given you for training? Did she pay you by the week? Did she pay you by the month? How did she pay you?
Up front, first,
Okay,
monthly.
in July.
Yep.
Not yup. That's not yup.
Yes,
Yup
ma'am.
you say to your friends or to your wife. So in July,
Yes.
when you started,
Yes.
she gave you how much?
500.
For the month of July.
Yes, ma'am.
The month of August, how much did she give you?
500.
Is that correct?
Correct.
September,
Same amount, ma'am.
500. October,
Same amount.
November,
Same amount.
the beginning of November.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
not
actually,
yeah is not an answer. The beginning
Sorry.
of November, did she give you $500?
No, because that's when we had the agreement.
No. Don't give me agreement nonsense. The beginning of July, she gave you $500.
Yep.
Beginning of August,
Yep.
she gave you $500. Beginning of September,
Yes.
she gave you $500. The beginning of October, she gave you $500. How much did she give you in the beginning of November? This $2,300 was not paid until November 22nd. How much did she give you the beginning of November?
Then it must have been $500.
Is that correct? So now she has given you $2,500
Yes, ma'am.
for 5 months. She's given you $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now I want you to tell me what happened in November after you gave him the $2,500.
So we agreed to $100 monthly payments.
This is in November?
November, after we signed the agreement.
What agreement?
The agreement was that...
No, I want to see the agreement. Don't tell me what it
Absolutely.
was. I'd like to see it.
Vanessa hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She dons her glasses, then reviews it.
Who wrote this?
I did.
Well, I don't actually understand it. It says, I, Mr. Venzloff, hereby accept $2,300 from my client, Vanessa Hickman, in trade and paid in advance for training. This will cover meal plans, planned workouts, in-person training, check-ins, and virtual check-ins from November 22nd, 2021 to May 15th, or 1 month of training and payment plans of no less than $100 a month, starting 12/22/21. I agree to pay back the full amount in 12 months. I actually don't understand what that means, because you agreed to pay back the full amount in 12 months by paying her no less than $100 a month, starting December 2021. First part says you're accepting this $2,300 from your client in trade and paid in advance for training, but that you will pay her $100 a month and be finished paying her in 12 months by 11/22/2022. Okay. So you wrote this up.
Yes,
I don't understand it because it doesn't make sense.
of course.
So there had to be a reason why you picked this $2,300. He's been training you July, August, September, October, and November. You paid him $500 each month, or about $120 a week. And all of a sudden, there's a $2,300. What is there something that I said funny?
Dylan's wife's eyes widen.
All of a sudden, there's $2,300. Tell me how the $2,300 came about.
So over the course of those months, we became good friends. I see him 3 times a week. We get to know each other, talk, open up, and we're very friendly with each other. He opened up about me about having financial hardships.
No, he'd opened up. He said to you.
Yeah, he said to me, I need to borrow $2,300.
And you said to him.
Why can't you ask anybody else?
And he said to you.
His girlfriend's father, if he were to ask him, he would pry and find out that he was addicted to cocaine.
That's what he told you?
Correct.
And what did you say to him?
Oh, okay. So if I give you this money, we're going to write an agreement to cover me in case you don't pay me back.
And what did he say?
Okay. And that day on November 22nd, we wrote out the agreement.
No, you wrote the agreement.
Absolutely. I wrote it down, and he gave me a photo of his driver's license that day. And
you have a copy of that driver's license?
I do have a photo on my phone, yes.
I'd like to see it.
Of course.
Vanessa hands her phone to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
So you were working, and he was working. He was making money. So if you're the wife, you say, what do you mean? We need money for rent. I'm working. You're working. What's it all about? Did you know he had a drug problem?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Vanessa and Dylan.
Vanessa Hickman claims her trainer, Dylan Venzloff, owes for an unpaid loan. Dylan says it was a trade agreement and not a loan.
Okay. Mr. Venzloff, understanding what I said to you before, that everybody that I know has a trainer. Everybody, except me. Nobody that I know has the driver's license of their trainer. Nobody. And I'm very old. Now, can you give me a logical reason why the plaintiff would have a copy of your driver's license in her phone?
To make sure that the trade agreement stays.
What's the trade agreement?
The trade agreement was that she was going to give me the money, and I was going to...
Just a second. Let's go back for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
So what she says, in part, was accurate. Is that what you're telling me?
In part.
That you became friends, you would talk to her, you had a girlfriend, you knew he had a girlfriend?
Correct.
You asked her for money?
Yes, ma'am.
Different amount of money because you were in financial difficulty?
Yes, ma'am.
And that she asked you, why couldn't you ask your girlfriend's father? Because she evidently knew that based upon the fact that you were friends, that you're the wife, girlfriend, whatever, your father has money?
Yes.
Okay. Why couldn't you ask the girlfriend's father, right?
Yes.
She asked you that question?
Yes.
And did you say to her, because I didn't want him to pry?
Yes.
Because I have a cocaine habit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so she gave you the $2,300?
Yep.
Not yup.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Perfect. And that was on the 22nd of November of last year. After she gave you that money, and you were supposed to, according to this agreement, make $100 a month payments to her. That would took That's what it says.
Yeah, if I was unavailable.
No, it doesn't say. There's nothing here that says unavailable.
Well, it's actually...
There's nothing. That's why I don't understand this agreement.
Yeah.
You see, not yet. That's why I don't understand this agreement, because one talks about training and workouts, and one talks about you agreeing to pay her back within 12 months at no less than $100 a month. So it doesn't make any sense. So now I have to figure out what it was that really happened. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this paper says something about $100 a month. Now, did you ever give her $100 a month?
Yes, for a month.
In what months did you give her $100 a month?
I think it was the first 3 months.
And you gave it to her how?
Via Venmo.
Did he give you the first 3 months?
He gave me the last 2 months, and his wife paid me the first month.
That would be you?
Yes.
Stand up, please.
Dylan's wife rises.
Tell me your last name.
Venzloff.
When did you find out that your husband had taken money from the plaintiff?
When she had sent me a message on Instagram asking for me to send her money that he was late on a payment.
And that was in what month?
I believe mid-January she messaged me.
January of 2022.
Correct.
And up until that time, your husband had not told you that he took money from the plaintiff. That's an easy question.
I don't believe so, no.
He had not. Well, that's what it sounded like. You didn't know about it because the first you heard about it was when she sent you a message. So he had not told you that he took money from her before. Now, when you found out, you confronted him about this, did you take money from the plaintiff?
I did.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that he had to pay for rent that month.
Were you living together?
We were already married.
Were you working?
I was.
So you were working, and he was working. He was making money. So if you're the wife, you say, what do you mean? We need money for rent. I'm working. You're working. What's it all about? Did you know he had a drug problem?
That was when I found out.
Okay. Well, that's a fair question. I like the honesty. Did you have discussions with him about that?
Yes.
Did he go into rehab?
Yes.
Great. When did he go into rehab?
He went for a week in December into a detox, and then he went for a month this last June, I believe.
Because he had a relapse?
Yes.
How long was it in June?
30 days.
During December and June, had he ever been arrested?
No.
So he did this voluntarily.
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Take a breath. All fine. Your husband owes her $1,800. That's what she's suing for. That's what he owes her. He knows he owes her that money. She was doing a good thing. She was being kind to him. And probably, ultimately, if he stays clean, saved his life. Reasonable, you know, because but for that, you wouldn't have found out, you wouldn't have forced him to take some action. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Do you have a drug problem?
I don't know.
Does your father still not like him?
They're best friends.
They're best friends?
Yes.
Interesting. I'm absolutely shocked. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,800. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Vanessa, then Dylan.
I thought that she handled it very well. I didn't need to go over all the details. She did that all for me.
Honestly, you know, it was a trade agreement, which it clearly states in the first part, you know, so I had the entire year.
I don't think that he could have sent me the payments. I had to keep...
To either pay her back or train her, and she served me before the contract was even up.
Crying and messaging him for it. I think court was where it needed to be settled.
All she wanted was the money back, but I told her I was completely available. Then she moved out of the area.
He's a great trainer, absolutely amazing trainer, hands down. Borrowing money, not the smartest decision.
Well, I think he could have handled the situation differently, but I think he was trying to do his best to get us out of a sticky situation.
You know, I think it's about time to find someone else.
Judy and Sarah.
I remember my law school days, Sarah. Not clearly, but I remember my law school days. And you know how important it is, I always say you should have a writing. But you're supposed to have a writing that's clear. And I know that there's a rule of law that if a contract or an agreement is ambiguous, that a third party can't figure out, fact finder can't figure out what the intent of the parties was. Was it a training agreement, which is what he said, which is a lot of baloney? Was it a loan that you're allowed to go beyond that contract? So your experience in law school is much closer.
I did just study this, so it's true that if a fully integrated agreement, meaning that it's clear, the meeting of the minds between parties is clear to a third-party fact
For car damages and harassment.
Judge Judy enters the courtroom.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2003, Gaines versus Gaines.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Miss Gaines, you and the defendant are half-sisters. You share the same father.
Yes.
Have you always had a relationship with your father?
Yes.
And you, Miss Gaines?
Yes.
There came a time when you were living with your dad.
Yes.
From when to when were you living with your dad?
From October 2018 to December 2021.
And who was living at the same residence?
It was me, my dad, and a roommate, my dad's roommate.
No children?
Yes, my children stayed there as well. I do
Okay,
apologize.
well, that's important.
Sorry.
How many children?
I have 4 daughters.
How old are they?
11, 10, 4, and 5.
Were you working?
Yes.
From 18 to 21?
I stopped working in November 2019, and I started back working October 21.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for United Healthcare. I'm a customer service rep for Optum.
Just so that I get a sense, because this is a family issue, you clearly had a life before you moved to your father's house in 2018. Could you tell me why you moved into your father's house in 2018?
Because where I was living, the house was smaller, and my dad felt like he wanted me and my children to be in a safer environment.
So you had an ongoing, constant relationship with him?
Yes.
And Miss Gaines, tell me about you. Did you ever live with your father?
I lived with my father when I was in the 9th grade.
But not since you were a child?
No.
Did you maintain a relationship with him?
I did. Me and my father do mechanic work together most of the time, so I'm at his house a lot.
Was that a business that you had together?
Just more so for fun, family time. If he needed help, I could go in and assist him. I just use that as extra time.
And that was consistent and up through 2021?
Yes.
So you saw your sister there? Because she was living there with her children?
Yes. On occasion, though, her and her kids would be out more often. I would just go and visit my dad when the house was empty and he needed more company and help and assistance because he was there alone.
How old was he?
He's about 24 years older than me, so I believe he's like 59 now.
Did you see your sister at your father's house in the years that you were living there?
She came to visit, yes.
And they worked together on mechanical stuff?
I never saw that. Me and my sister, we had a close relationship, so she would come over and hang out with me all the time.
Okay, good. And then, unfortunately, something happened. You want to tell me when that was and what it was?
October, I believe it was the 30th, me and my sister, we got into an altercation.
Tell me the beginnings of it, because each of you claimed that the other harassed, claim your sister assaulted you, and both of you claimed some damage to automobiles that was caused by the other during the course of these altercations. Okay, so tell me what happened in October.
So the Thursday prior to the 30th, which was a Saturday in October, my sister was supposed to come to my house and do my kids' hair. But that was something that I had just asked her to do. Like we said, I stayed with my dad. They were having some issues, so I...
Who was having issues?
My sister and my dad.
Were you having issues with your father around that time?
I was told I was having issues with my father at that time by my sister Jessica.
Did you discuss it with your father?
I did, and I found out that that was a lie that Jessica had told him, was making up lies to make us not like each other.
Okay, so there was some bad feeling about that.
Right, so I was inviting her over because she was struggling, and I needed my kids' hair done for picture day. So
She was what?
Struggling.
Struggling.
Financially.
Okay.
So I offered to pay her to do my kids' hair. My dad did inform me that she wasn't able to come to the house, that I needed to go to her house. And I don't really know what her situation was like over there, so I let my dad know I was uncomfortable. And I also let her know our dad said it was not okay for you to come over here with us today. And he wanted an apology.
He wanted an apology?
Yes.
From her?
Yes.
Is your father well?
He has diabetes and...
Okay, but there's nothing preventing him from coming to court. Okay, well then you can't tell me what he told you because that's hearsay. Did your sister come over to the house on October 30th?
Yes.
Approximately what time?
I believe 11:30 in the morning.
Had you had a conversation with her that morning and told her not to come over?
Yes.
Did you tell her why?
Oh, I can't speak on it because he's not here.
No.
I don't.
My question is, did you tell your sister why?
Yes.
What did you tell your sister?
That our dad would not want her there.
Is that what she told you?
That is what she told me.
Did you ask her why?
I did.
What did she tell you?
She told me that my dad was under the impression that I was hanging out with drug dealers and dangerous people, and that he didn't want me around.
Did you call your father?
I did.
And you had a discussion with him?
I did.
Were you invited over to the house?
I called...
That's either a yes or a no?
No.
So now you have information, whether accurate or not, that you weren't welcome in your father's house for whatever reason, or for the reason that was articulated to you. You called your father to confirm that, and your father did, in fact, confirm that.
He confirmed that there was a issue between Jessica and I, and that we needed to resolve it. He was not going to get involved with it. But he did not confirm that I was denied access to his house.
Well, just from my information, what did you think the issue was between you and your sister?
She was lying to my father.
Well, no, your father didn't say that your sister's lying to me. Your father had to have indicated to you that these are the things that I'm being told. And you have to resolve that with your sister.
Yes.
But your father told you not to come to the house.
No, he did not tell me not to come to the house.
Did he suggest you come to the house?
Neither. He neither suggested I come or not to. He just said I should
resolve it with her.
Yes.
Okay. And you went over there that morning?
I stated to her that I would come over and resolve it right then and there.
You told him?
They were both on the phone. Okay. I called his cell phone.
Did your sister, then your sister said, I'm going to come over, and you knew she was coming?
Yes, she said...
Okay, that's a yes. You knew she was coming, so this wasn't a surprise visit. You knew she was coming. Now tell me what happened when she got there.
So when she gets there, me and my dad were standing outside already. She gets out of her car. I approach her car. It's a little back and forth, and then...
No, tell me the back and forth, and try to keep your voice up.
Sorry. So when I approach her car, she jumps out the car. Then she reaches for a taser. So then I close her in the door. And once my dad, we're outside together, he pulls me off the door. She then takes her car, it's a video. She's attempting to run me over with her car. She did manage to run over my foot. I then went in the house. I got a broomstick, like an attachment, like the broom wasn't attached. But I've got the broomstick, and I went outside and I started swinging it at her car. And I damaged the hood of her car and the window.
And then she left?
No. She stayed at the house. I went back in the house. She called the police, and I'm not sure what happened after she called the police.
Well, did the police arrive?
My dad informed me that we didn't know what she was telling the police, that when police come, everybody gets arrested. So he said, I had something to do that day, go get a facial at an appointment at 1 o'clock. So I just went ahead and headed off to that.
So you left?
Yes.
You knew she called the police and you left, leaving your dad to explain to the police what happened?
My dad didn't talk to the police neither.
So they just came?
As far as I know, they just came, knocked on the door. When I called to see if there was a report made, the police said no report was made. That was it.
Okay, fine. So the damage that was done to your car was done with a broomstick handle?
Yes.
To her car?
Yes.
By you?
Yes.
Now, Miss Gaines, did you have a taser in your car?
I don't own a taser.
And when you got to the house, your father was standing with her?
No.
Where was he?
He was exiting the house. She was already, when I pulled up, she was exiting the house.
But he was outside?
She was already at the sidewalk when I pulled up. Okay. So he was at the door.
Well, why don't you tell me your version of what happened when you pulled up?
I pulled up. I was recording the incident on my phone. I don't have that recording because it was on Instagram. I didn't want the embarrassment to go on any longer. I tried to screen record it, but it didn't save.
Okay, so you don't have video?
I don't have that full video. I do have a short video of her actually attacking the car with the stick that she came out of the house with, though. So I do have that
I'd like
portion.
to look at it.
I have the full video.
Okay, I'd like to see hers, and thank you for telling me you have the full video.
Okay.
I think the full video might be more sufficient because I have bits and pieces of the video.
Kevin, I'm going to take both. Would you pull up the video that you have on your phone?
We're going to go over to my family member's house right now to find out why we want to fight me. She has literally did everything in her possibility to make my dad my enemy. She has moved into his house, told him I'm on drugs. My family have come up with the excuse that I'm on drugs, and that's why nobody has come to see me. Yeah, do it. I'm on live.
Video footage of Jessica hitting Joanne's car with a broom handle.
First, Miss Gaines, you do understand that you damaged your sister's car?
Yes.
Okay, and that you have to pay for that. Your tires had already been flattened how many times?
3.
Do you have a bill for those tires?
When I went to court, when she was suing me for her car, I just took the receipts as proof, and when the judge took it, I never got it back.
No.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jessica and Joanne.
Jessica Gaines claims her sister, Joanne Gaines, vandalized her car and harassed her. Joanne is countersuing for an assault and filing a false restraining order against her.
Okay. Miss Gaines, you do understand that you damaged your sister's car?
Yes.
Okay, and that you have to pay for that?
She sued me for the damages already.
She sued you. Did she get the damages?
Yes.
Oh.
She was granted.
Okay.
Jessica hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay, so you sued her already and you got a judgment?
Yes, for that incident.
For this damage?
But not the damage that would happen on December the 12th.
Just a second.
Sorry.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with this damage. And subsequent to this damage that you caused to your sister's car, you had damage to your car.
Yes.
And tell me what that was.
So on 3 different occasions, she came to my house and popped both of my tires on the driver's side of my car.
Okay, and this was after October 30th?
Yes.
You'd been living at your father's house for 3 years?
Yes.
With your children. During that 3-year period of time, was your car ever damaged?
No.
Did you ever have tires popped on the car?
No.
Did you confront your sister at any time about the damage to your car?
No.
According to this, you have a video of her near your car.
Yes.
On one of those occasions.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Before I even look at it, Miss Gaines, you received a judgment and were compensated for the damage to your car caused by your sister. Mm-hmm. Do you acknowledge that you or someone acting on your behalf flattened her tires?
1 tire.
Okay. So you say you flattened them 1 time?
1 tire, 1 time.
And when?
Right before November.
Okay. And what did you flatten the tires with?
Knife.
So you
Just one
slashed.
tire.
She did say tires, didn't
Just
she?
one tire.
She said one tire, one time.
Okay. And that was in November.
Beginning of November.
Did you pay for that tire?
I did not.
And do you have photographs of the flattened tires?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at them. How many times were they flattened?
My tires were flattened 3 times.
Tires. How many tires the first time?
2.
How many tires the second time?
Sorry, I just want to make sure. 2.
How many tires the third time?
2.
And you filed a case against your sister for damage to your car on what date?
This is the court case I filed for damages for my car. Well, originally I just filed for...
When did she file the case, I'm sorry, against you for damages to her car?
December 16th.
And your tires had already been flattened how many times?
3.
Do you have a bill for those tires?
Yes. Well, I had took the receipt before, so I don't have the receipt, but I have the police report where the police...
No, I want to see the receipt.
I'm sorry.
I need damages. You want damages, you have to show me that you spent money to replace the tires and how much they cost.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I went to court, when she was suing me for her car, I just took the receipts as proof, and when the judge took it, I never got it back.
Did you countersue her for the tires when she sued you?
No.
Well, why would the judge take your receipts for the tire?
Because he took all of our evidence at the end of the case.
No. The only reason a court would take your evidence is if you had a counterclaim for your damage.
I'm new to the court thing, so I didn't know to countersue. So when I had to file paperwork, so when I went to court on our court date, I was just letting the judge know, like, look, she did these damages to me. I didn't file a countersue claim. I didn't know I had to do that.
The judge looked at it and didn't return that to you?
He said any evidence that we wanted to be taken into consideration, to leave it with him. And I left it with him.
And what kind of tires did you purchase?
I believe they say Bridgestone on them.
And what's the name, make, and model of your car?
It's a 2005 Cadillac Escalade.
Can you get me any information about that, Sarah? Cost of cars, 2000 Escalade, what kind of tires it uses? Okay, so the harassment that you're talking about by your sister, because that's the other part of your claim. The vandalism is one, which Sarah is looking up now. The damages for harassment were the tires being slashed, is that right?
A part of it, yes.
Well, what's the other part?
Well, when I filed for the restraining order, the judge said it sounded like a family matter, so it didn't.
So the court dismissed it?
Yes. So on December 24th, which was Christmas Eve, I woke up and my tires were popped again. So I then asked my dad, is it okay if I record you reaching out to my sister, asking her to leave me alone so that if I do go to court again, I have some evidence? Because again, my dad didn't come to court back then. And he was like, I don't think I can do that because then she'll start messing with me and I can't afford to be down in the morning.
Okay.
And then I was just like, okay, well, at that point, I didn't feel safe there no more because she had already called Children's Services on me. And then every 2 weeks, my tires were being popped. I really couldn't afford it.
I got it. Do you recall how much you spent for each tire?
Each tire was $120.
So you spent a little over $700?
Yes.
Okay.
That's about right from what I'm seeing.
Okay. So, Ms. Gaines, let me tell you how I'm going to rule on her request for damages for her car. But I believe that some things make sense and some things don't. And if somebody has an MO of slashing tires as their reaction to having their car damaged, and if you acknowledge doing it and doing it one time, it is not a giant leap from my imagination that you caused the same damage to all 6 of her tires. I don't find that a giant leap. I think the whole thing is foolish, and I actually don't see the basis for coming out with a broomstick, except that you were angry and lashing out at her car. You could have stayed in your house and called the police. There was no reason for you to come out of the house at all, except to confront your sister. You had an application for a restraining order against your sister?
This is correct.
And you had a trial on that?
This is correct.
And you were granted a restraining order?
Yes.
For how long?
6 months.
And that expired?
It hasn't expired yet. This was an incident. It was caused by her coming to my house after court.
Okay.
And causing more damage.
Okay. So I think that she had the right to file for a restraining order against you because part of your action is filing false restraining order. Part of your case was for vandalism to your car, but that was already done in another court.
That was part of the first case. We've been going since October.
Okay. How did she ask you to jump out of the vehicle?
She stated, hop out. I said, okay, I guess we're hopping out. Well,
that was sort of silly. If somebody said to you, hop out, I would stay in the car.
I'm trying to talk to my dad.
Well, you talk to your dad later when things have calmed down and you're not high on weed.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jessica and Joanne.
Jessica Gaines accuses her sister, Joanne Gaines, of slashing her tires. Joanne claims she needed to file a restraining order against Jessica.
Okay, let's get to the assault part of your claim that I would like to hear. First, I watched the video, and I have to tell you, Miss Gaines, that in my judgment, what you took a big whiff of was a blunt. Is that what they call that?
That is.
Okay. And that's what was in the video, and that's while you were on your way over there and very, very angry and driving a car and lost in a sea of smoke. You understand? And I think that that's both foolish, bad judgment, dangerous, and dangerous to drive a car that way.
I agree, I'm sorry.
And shows an absolute lack of judgment. So I would think about that kind of behavior. Again, if I were you, you want to tell me when and under what circumstances your sister assaulted you and where you were hospitalized or treated medically?
When I pulled up to the house, she had asked me to jump out of the vehicle.
How did she ask you to jump out of the vehicle?
She was standing on the sidewalk. I was putting the car in park, and she stated, hop out. And I said, okay, I guess we're hopping out. Well, that was
sort of silly. If somebody said to you, hop out, I would stay in the car.
I'm trying to talk to my dad. I have a...
Okay. Well, you talk to your dad later when things have calmed down and you're not high on weed.
I understand that you...
You got the damages for your car by way of a judgment. I've awarded you for the tires $726. $726 for the tires. That's the judgment of the court. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I only slashed her tires one tire, like I stated.
It was fair.
There's no receipts that were presented, so they were never damaged.
We got it, we got the proof, so.
She stated that I ran her over by the car, but she was walking back into her house. How are you walking if your foot got ran over by a car?
It's embarrassing.
Jealousy, maybe. I don't feel that way. This is my younger sister. I love my younger sister. I don't wish that this wasn't even going on.
I really hope we have a better relationship going forward. I hope this is all over and behind us.
Yeah, there's no more family for me, I guess.
We're siblings. Siblings go through stuff.
Judy and Sarah.
So, my Sarah, the case to me, we've seen it before, siblings fighting, very unfortunate. So I'm going to ask you a question because I know I come from a separate generations, 3 down from you.
Okay.
And I've already accepted the fact that many states in this country have voted in favor of legislation which suggests that marijuana is a legal substance and decriminalizing it. Fine, just like alcohol.
Yes.
That's what my grandchildren tell me. You drink alcohol, we do something else. But am I crazy? Because I watched that video, and to me that was the most interesting part of the video. And then she took this big cigar thing, which I found out what those were called back in my family court days. And it's interesting that I could recall it, called a blunt. Tell me what you think. Would it be no different if she took a big bottle of vodka from the passenger seat and took a couple of swigs before she got to a fight?
Yeah.
Okay, I want your take on that.
Yeah, even as a different generation, there's responsibilities and regulations and rules, the same with alcohol. So while it might be legalized, decriminalized in many states, you still have to follow the rules and act responsibly. I think there are different physiological effects.
Would you say that there was any jurisdiction in this country where you could smoke marijuana while you were driving?
I think it's still considered under the influence.
Former friend Alexandria Allen for a washer and dryer.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2043, Pelletier versus Allen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This young lady is a friend of yours.
A former friend, correct.
How friend?
I met her from another mutual friend that I had, and we just formed a relationship together, just a friendship.
Are you married?
I'm not, I'm single.
Any kids?
No.
And what about the defendant?
She does have 2 kids, and she is married.
Currently?
Yes, currently married.
Are you also friendly with her husband?
Yeah, just friends. We were, yeah, before all this took place.
So that all of you were friends?
Yes, at one point, yes.
Case is relatively simple. Miss Allen's washer and dryer stopped working.
Correct.
You had done some odds and ends things for her in the past.
Yes, worked on her car and stuff.
And did you find or did she find the used washer and dryer?
She asked me for recommendations and she found it on the selling app for used items.
So you told her where she might look for it?
Correct.
And she found it on an app online?
Correct.
Okay.
No, actually...
Look at me.
Okay. He made the recommendation to me.
Did you go on the app yourself?
No, I did not.
So you never saw the washer and dryer?
Well,
is that what you're... Just a second. So what you're saying, I just want to be clear. So I said, if you didn't go on the site, then you never saw the washer and dryer.
May I speak now?
Either you did go on the site and see it, or I didn't go on the site. I didn't see it.
He sent the picture of them to me, just a screenshot. That's all I got.
Okay. How old are you?
32.
You have 2 children?
Yes.
Did the screenshot show you where they came from?
I have a photo of them, and it doesn't say anything.
So is what you're telling me you didn't know where they came from?
Well, there is a name of the site. Would you like to know that?
I want to know if you knew it.
Yes, I know.
All right. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. You knew the site where the photo came from. So let's say you are correct, and I don't know. You said you needed a washer and dryer. You say he found the washer and dryer on a site, sent a photo to you and said, is this what you're looking for?
Correct.
Right? And on that screenshot was the site.
Right.
So you had at least access to the same site that he did.
That's correct.
And did the site give you the name of the person or persons to contact with regard to the washer dryer?
There was no one's name, just a phone number.
Did you call a phone number?
I didn't call them.
Who called them?
Mr. Pelletier.
Now, Mr. Pelletier didn't call them unless you said they look fine.
Well, I did say they looked fine.
Well, what else did you say?
Based on the picture, they looked...
Just a second. Just answer my question.
Okay.
Because what happened here is really relatively simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether you're a simple person, but it's relatively simple. You had a friend. You told him I needed a washer and dryer. Mine broke down. He said, this is a great site. According to you, I'll look up, and he looked up the washer and dryer, and you did nothing. You, who needed the washer and dryer, you must work very hard. How many jobs do you have?
I have a couple of jobs. My children are a big job, for one. And two, I am a full-time university student, so I am busy.
So you should be able to get a washer and dryer by yourself. You farmed that job out to him.
I did because he volunteered to help.
Doesn't matter. He didn't volunteer to help unless you told him I need help. I mean, is what it is. Are you using him? I'm not sure.
I wouldn't.
I'm not sure. What do you do for him?
I watched his cats. When he went out on a vacation with his grandmother, and I took care of his cats free of charge because, well,
for how long?
I didn't expect him to be gone that long either. It was over a week, and I had to buy the cats food.
So, just a second. So you watched his cats?
Yes.
And is what you believed that him taking care of getting this washing machine payment for taking care of the cats?
Well, not just that. There's other things that happened while he was installing the washer and dryer.
I don't care about things that... What I'm asking you is I'm trying to figure out what kind of person says to a friend, I need a washer and dryer. He says, as a friend, I'll see if I can help you. You have time. You also go on the computer and figure it out. Being a full-time student is nice. That's what you chose. Somehow, you also support yourself and your 2 children. I don't even want to go into how that's done. However, you said, go get the washer and dryer. And he went, how long?
It's 50 miles from my house, an hour and 45 minutes.
Each way to pick up the washer and dryer that you authorized him to get. You said, go get it. It was $1,800.
Correct. And she offered $200 tip for the delivery of that.
For you?
Mm-hmm, correct. Okay. And I have texts of
That's
that.
reasonable because you spent 3.5 hours in the car. Now, do they live on the 1st floor?
The 3rd floor.
3rd floor. Is it a walk up?
Yeah, it's stairway up to the 3rd floor.
So somebody had to go up and take the old washer dryer out. So, Miss Allen, was that you or your husband?
Mr. Pelletier also removed them.
No, you can move your mouth. It's okay if you move.
No,
it's okay if you move your mouth.
Alexandria smirks. Caption coming up.
I feel like I was being very kind because I didn't decide to sue him for his cat or the damages he did to the cows.
I'm telling you,
cats.
I don't know what your excuse is.
I feel like
I don't care what you feel like. I don't care what you feel like.
And later today,
when we went to transfer the title over together at the DMV, I had to pay off whatever tolls that I had. So between that time and the time where he ended up taking the car back, I don't really know how there was $600 worth of tolls.
I don't know either, but that's what I'm going to find out.
A woman shrugs. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Hunter and Alexandria.
Hunter Pelletier claims his former friend, Alexandria Allen, is responsible for the cost of a washer and dryer.
The plaintiff walked up the 3 flights of steps, carried each of the washer and dryers downstairs, took the washer and dryers from downstairs up the 3 flights, got them installed, and you didn't like them. They were a different color.
And they're busted up. They don't even work properly.
Okay. Miss Allen, when did this happen? In what month?
January 7th of 2022.
You have receipts for different washers and dryers that you purchased since January of 2022?
I do not have the receipts, no.
That means that you didn't purchase them.
Well, I never paid him for them.
No. That means that you never purchased new ones. That means that you're still using the ones he bought.
Correct. But
right.
They do not work well.
Just, you bought used washer and dryer. You've been using them January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 8 months, and you're still using them. And you neither paid for them, nor did you pay him for delivery. And I don't know what your excuse is.
I feel like
I don't care what you feel like. I don't care what you feel like. You made a contract with him to go and pick up washers and dryers, disconnect yours, take them out of your house, install these, lay out the money to pay for these, use them for 8 months, and not pay them because you weren't happy with them.
I feel like I was being very kind because I didn't decide to sue him for his cat or the damages he did to the cows.
I'm telling you,
cats did to the
I'm telling you,
couches.
you should stay in school. How much did you pay for the washer and dryer?
$1,800, and I took the money out of the bank. She had asked me because her ATM has a low limit, so I went into the branch of my own bank.
That's what you're suing for $1,800.
Yeah, I wanted to get the $200 if possible, but at this point, I just want the money for the machines.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. $1,800.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Alexandria.
It damaged the walls of my apartment. They banged it up.
She saw right through everything, the damages, she said.
The machines were overpriced.
None of that happened from me. I'm not a professional installer.
I don't think he cared because it wasn't his money.
At the time, they were less than 6 months old from original purchase date, so they were still worth the money that they were asking.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to be friends anymore.
I don't need friends like that, no.
Sarah and Judy.
So this case touched a little upon agency, like an agent-principal relationship, where here the plaintiff was actively acting as her agent by going and picking up these washing machines for her. They had had communications beforehand about this is what they look like, this is what they cost, I'll do it for you for $200. Is this what you want to do? She says yes. You don't get to just then back out of it because you don't like the color. You knew what they looked like. You knew they were used. There was no bait and switch. I was almost waiting for an explanation, for a bait and switch, he put the nice ones in his house and then gave me not so nice ones. But there was nothing. There was very rarely do we see no excuse for.
And she's using them.
Yeah, still for almost a year.
They were all banged up. They were all banged up. Well, that's what happens when you buy something that's used. Mm-hmm. When you buy something over the internet, which is really what she did, she could have just as easily said to him, before you load them in the truck, please take pictures of them so that I see them.
Yes, she could have.
So she could have. Did nothing.
That's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Also allowed him to take the other stuff down, put the other stuff up, and then say, well, they were banged up.
$200 to move 4 heavy machines is a low price as far as I'm concerned.
Not a friend anymore.
Yeah.
Case number 2017. Alvarez versus Coover. All parties, please step forward.
Avery Alvarez is suing his former friend, Brianna Coover, for toll charges.
Mr. Alvarez, this is not a very difficult case. It's a question of dates. You bought a new car.
Yes, ma'am.
You knew the defendant somehow through her boyfriend or...
He's my cousin.
Okay, so you purchased a new car. You had an older car that you were still paying off. And Miss Culver needed a car, and you made an arrangement with her where she would take over the monthly payments on your old car, so that you would just be paying your new car. And when she finished making the payments on the car would be hers.
That's correct.
You did, in fact, conclude that agreement, and Miss Coover did, in fact, pay off the car.
Yes, ma'am.
She paid off the car. However, she did not register the car in her name.
That's correct.
And you had your plates on the car, and it is your claim that while the car was in her possession, she racked up $600 and some odd in toll fees.
Yes, Your Honor.
Which is what you're suing for.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Culver said that didn't happen. She had her own Easy Pass, toll pass, whatever it is. And there was no way that those tickets were incurred while she was in possession of the car. And additionally, she's got some very sad story. She paid off the car. She didn't register it for some reason. She didn't register it, which I don't have to get into. You took the car back because you were afraid that your plates were on the car, and you started to get these dunning notices for tickets. Then you had to give the car back because you had given her the title to the car when she finished paying off the car, despite the fact she hadn't registered it. And then you took the license plates back, which is a very smart thing to do, because then she couldn't use them to get through the tolls. And because you took the plates off and she didn't register it and get new plates, it was towed from her parking space at a condo, taken to a lot where she didn't have enough money to get the car out, and the car was auctioned off, and now she has no car. And you have $600 worth of tickets in your name.
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Is that it?
That is a version of the story, yes.
Well, I will let you tell me a different version.
Everything is true thus far. We did have the agreement where he wanted a new car, I needed a car.
No, I got that. I just want to know what I said that was incorrect. I just made it shorter.
Just to clarify, when we went to transfer the title over together at the DMV, I had to pay off whatever tolls that I had before they're able to transfer the title over. So that was done. So between that time and the time where he ended up taking the car back, I don't really know how there was $600 worth of tolls.
I don't know either. That's what I'm going to find out. But is there any part of the story that I just told that was inaccurate?
Brianna hesitates. Caption coming up.
He transferred over the car to you. You had possession of the car. He didn't.
Correct.
Other than you, who drove the car? Come on, that's a question. And other than you, who drove the car?
Nobody.
No. Who drove your car?
Judy glares at Brianna. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Avrian and Brianna.
Avrian Alvarez claims his former friend, Brianna Coover, owes for toll charges. Brianna says she already paid for the toll charges.
He says that you had possession of the car. He got notification that there were tickets. You say that you didn't go through tolls. He said, I didn't have possession of the car. Is there anything that is incorrect about that? So it's just a question of dates. It's not a difficult case. It's a question of dates.
Correct.
Okay, so give me the date that you made this arrangement to pay off the car.
I don't know the exact date.
She took over the car payments starting July 2019.
And when was it paid off?
May 16th, 2021.
When it was paid off, did you sign the title over to her and the lien holder did?
Going back and forth at that time, I was trying to get her to come over to where I live so we could go to get the car transferred. We ultimately settled on a date, and then the DMV over there said that she had to have a sheriff verify the VIN and the odometer before we could transfer it over. I guess it's a rule in the county. So at that moment, then yes, we signed it over to her so she could do it at her local DMV.
And that was on what date?
That was July 9th.
Now, between July of 2018 and July of 2021, did you ever drive that car?
No, ma'am.
When did you initially take the car back from her?
I took the car back September 11th of 2021.
And how long did you have the car when you took it back because of these tickets?
I texted her on September 15th and told her that she could go pick the car up because I had found out that I
couldn't do that.
Exactly.
It was self-help for that.
Correct.
Okay, so you had the car between September 11th and September 15th.
Yes, ma'am.
Other than that period of time, did you ever drive the car from July 18th until the present time?
No, ma'am.
So if there were any tickets that were accrued, it was either by the defendant or somebody who drove the car with defendant's permission?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to see the dates of the tickets.
Avrian flips through a pile of documents.
Ms. Coover, you don't question the fact that between July 2018 and today's date, with the exception of between September 11th and the 15th of 2021, he did not have possession of the car.
Correct. The only reason that when we transferred the title over, we had an agreement.
Just a second. That's all I asked you. This is not a conversation. I just want to know who got the tickets. Whoever got the tickets is responsible for them. So he only had the car, so if there are any tickets there that were between September 11th and September 15th of 2021, they belong to him. Any other tickets from 2018 July until infinity are yours.
Brianna nods. Kevin hands Avrian's documents to Judy, who reviews them.
Well, we have invoice date is 7/28/21. That would be you.
Correct.
June 30th, 2021, 7/1/2021, 7/2/2021, again 7/2, 7/3, 7/6, 7/6, 7/7, 7/8, 7/8, 7/22, and 7/28 of 2021. Those are all you.
Correct.
August 28th, 2021. That would be you.
Yes.
3, 3, 6, 9, 19, 28 of 2021. August. That all would be you.
Yes. I never argued that that wasn't me. I'm just, from the moment that we officially transferred the title over, we were not able to transfer the title over until I paid.
Oh, just show, you paid these?
And we were together.
Now, just
when
a
we did
second.
that.
Show me that you paid them.
I have this receipt.
Just show me that you paid them, that's it.
Brianna hands her phone to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
And that would have been what was due at the time when we transferred the title over.
I'm just going by the dates of the tickets, madam. I don't care how the government screws up. That's not my problem. Okay, show me your payment. May I see it, please?
Judy reviews Brianna's phone.
It should say the date there and the cost of those tolls on the day.
This is your SunPass. You replenished your SunPass.
That's a payment to SunPass.
For $154.
And that's what it was on the day that we transferred the title over. So my thing is, from the day that we transferred the title over to the day that he came to my parents' house and took the car, there was no way that I racked up $600 in tolls.
I don't know whether you did or didn't. Then take that up with Department of Motor Vehicles. That's what they say you racked up between that period of time. He didn't have possession of the car. You had possession of the car from the time he transferred over the car to you. You had possession of the car. He didn't.
Correct.
Well, other than you who drove the car. Come on, that's a question. And other than you who drove the car.
Nobody.
No. He never drove your car.
No.
Who drove your car?
I did.
Who else?
Nobody.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $654. We're finished here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Avrian, then Brianna.
Quick and simple case. She did what she needed to do.
I can't really say I'm super surprised, I guess.
I was just asking for payment on the tolls and I wasn't getting any responses.
I don't know how in literally 3 months I didn't rack up $600 in tolls.
It is what it is.
He was okay with me continuing to use his
Take my license plate with me.
license plate until one day he wasn't, and then
Trevor McCormick for breaking his lease, the cost of a phone, as well as a personal loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case number 2031, Snyder Alice versus McCormick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Snyder, you own a farm,
I do,
and this is your girlfriend.
yes.
How long has she been your girlfriend?
5 years tomorrow.
You say that as if 5 years tomorrow, and
And I'm just saying, it's 5 years.
5 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
the rest of our lives.
Okay, good. You know that?
No, he's learning.
He's learning. Terrific. Okay, this is what I'm gathering from the bare bones of the story. Mr. McCormick was dating an employee of yours.
Correct.
What was that employee's name?
Natasha.
When were you dating the lovely Natasha?
We weren't really dating. We were an acquaintance.
Where was Natasha living?
She was living, when we first met, she was living at a friend's house, and she was working for Adam as an employee at a restaurant.
And when was that? Month and year?
I'd say around September of last year.
September 2021?
Yes.
And?
And we decided to move out because Adam had.
Well, so you were living with Natasha at the friend's house?
Yes.
Where had you been living before?
My mom's.
So you went from mom's house to Natasha and a friend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did you go?
Then we moved into the trailer right next to Adam that he owned.
Who had a discussion with Mr. Snyder about potentially renting the trailer so you would have a place to live? And what kind of rent were you paying?
I believe it was $800.
And you moved into the trailer when?
Around November.
Of 2021?
Yes.
And you lived in the trailer till when?
About March.
March of 2022?
Yes.
In March, what happened?
Me and Natasha weren't getting along. I just had enough.
There was never a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
No.
She was just a friend. Did you know that?
That is not true.
So what did you do?
I asked Adam if I could move into the ranch house. There was nobody living there at the time.
Where were you living?
I live at my home with Julie.
Okay, and there's a ranch house on the farm.
I have a ranch house on a separate piece of property.
Close by to the farm?
Yes, 3 miles.
That was vacant?
Correct.
Okay, so you asked to rent it?
Yes.
Who was going to rent it?
I was.
Just you?
Yes, just me.
How much was the rent?
It was $800.
And this was in March?
Yes.
Prior to March of 2022, what kind of work were you doing?
I was working at a factory.
How long did you work there?
About a month.
What month?
March.
Prior to March, where were you working?
On Adam's farm.
From when to when?
I'd say about December until March.
Well, in December to March, you were living in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay. And you were living with the lovely Natasha.
Correct.
And Natasha, I assume, was contributing to the rent.
Yes.
And how much were you contributing to the rent? Is not an answer. How much were you contributing to the rent from December to March of 2021?
Couple hundred a month.
That's not an answer. A couple of hundred a month. How much do you pay for rent? $316 a month and 24 cents. How much does it cost to have your garbage picked up? $59.12. Do you understand? Certain things change. What was your electric bill last year? I don't remember. What was your bill last month? I don't remember.
$300, ma'am.
You see? But I mean, a couple is two.
Yes.
Who did you pay that to?
Natasha.
Well, I can't tell whether you paid that to Natasha or not. Did you ever discuss rent with Mr. Snyder?
No.
Even in the trailer?
Even in the trailer.
So that was all done through Natasha?
Correct.
Okay. But according to you, you worked someplace in March, but before that you worked on the farm?
Yes.
From when to when? December to March?
Yes.
Beginning, middle, or the end of December?
The middle, the 16th.
Is that about right?
If you want to call
Just
helping...
helping whatever?
Yes.
December 16th. Okay. And from December 16th, you did whatever work it was on the farm until March?
Yes.
March what?
Till I moved out.
No, March what? Beginning, middle, and...
28th.
And what was the rent in the ranch house? The ranch house must have been nicer than the trailer you were living in.
$800.
You moved in April?
Yes.
How much money did you give him?
$900.
Some was to go towards security?
I was in between jobs, and that's what I had, so we made an agreement that I'd pay $900 the week of, and then so on and so on. I don't have
so on and so on?
I don't have the copy of the lease. He never gave me it.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I have it right here. In the back of the contract, you'll see where we wrote down he would pay $900
Just a second.
on the 8th.
Judy reviews a document.
Okay, so the security deposit was supposed to be $1,200. You paid $8.
Paid $9.
The security deposit was $12, and you paid $9 of security deposit?
I paid $9 total, ma'am.
Well, how many months did you live there?
Not even one.
When did you move out?
April 24th, I moved out.
Is that correct?
That's close, yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when he moved out because he didn't tell me he was moving out. He just locked the door.
Okay.
And wouldn't
but it was in
return
April.
messages.
Okay. And you had $900.
He paid $900.
And the rent on the property was supposed to be?
$800 per month.
$800 monthly.
Yes.
So right now, you've been paid for the month that he lived there.
Correct.
Prior to his moving in there, who was living there?
Nobody.
So it wasn't rented?
Nope.
In what year was it last rented?
2021.
When?
Oh, no, it was in February. We did an eviction on it.
So somebody lived there and didn't pay rent?
Correct.
Is that the first person who came and didn't pay rent?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's
And
lousy
Trevor
to be a
was there, and
landlord.
he helped us do the
Yeah.
eviction on that, so he knew how it worked.
Hmm?
Trevor was there. He helped us do the eviction because we had to have court officers there
To get them out because they weren't paying rent.
So he knows how it works.
Well, he may know how it works, but he did, in fact, give you $900,
He did.
and he lived there for less than a month.
That's right.
So that's sort of square. I know you'd like him to be responsible for his lease, but you have your house back. Now, tell me about this phone that you say he owes you for. By the way, where's your phone?
I have my phone that I paid for. Their phone that I put a down payment for is at my house.
Why?
I didn't know I had to bring it.
Well, it was just purchased within the last year.
Yeah.
Why do you have two phones? You have no
Because,
job. Why do you have two phones?
I have a job.
Oh, good.
I bought this outright because he shut the other phone off.
Oh, well, where is the phone?
The phone's at my house.
What kind of phone is it?
It's an iPhone 13.
You want it back?
I'd like him to just pay for it like the agreement was, but...
He gets back his phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even though I paid
just
it
a
down.
second. Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Highland.
Where is that?
It's by Detroit, Michigan.
Who else lives at home?
My girlfriend,
What's her name?
Ariel.
Where is she?
She is currently working right now.
Does she know where the phone is?
Yes.
Okay. They're going to give you an envelope in the clerk's office back here. You're going to tell Ariel to put his phone carefully packed and mail it to him. FedEx, UPS, the fastest way it will get there. Then you get your phone back. Go. What's next?
I have text messages here from Trevor. This will show where, when he was dating Natasha, they had agreed that they would pay for their phones up front so that I would put them on my business plan. I told them I would only do that if they paid for the phones up front, because when I took Trevor to Verizon, I said, if they don't pay for their phone bill, as long as they've paid for these phones in full, I can shut them off and it will cost my business no money, correct? And the lady said, that is right. I said, okay, then we can do it. So we added them to the bill, to the business plan. And here, where I text him, I said, you and Natasha told me you were paying for the phone in cash. That's why I allowed you on my business plan. Now I found out that you did not pay for the phones up front, because when we were in there, he and Natasha had the cash.
Did you assure Mr. Snyder that you were going to pay for the phone?
I had no idea I was even going to get a phone until Natasha said, go with Adam and go pick up our phones. That's all I heard, and that's what I did.
Well,
I didn't know
can't
about
say
the
that to
cash.
me because the lovely Natasha isn't here either. Sir, you're going to get your phone back. Is it one phone or more?
We recovered the second one from...
Well, you're going to recover this one too. You recovered the second one.
Yeah.
Second one was Natasha's?
Correct.
Great, we're going to recover this one too. What's next? Changing lock fees, and you want a personal loan. Okay. So once he moved out, according to you, he moved out totally, and you didn't even know he moved out, so I don't know why the locks were changed.
The lock did not need changed. I did tell the court that we were going to have to change the locks because the key was missing. I didn't know that while I was away on storm, Julie had gone in to check, make sure the water wasn't running, and she found the key on the table. And that is
Okay,
what Trevor
great.
said.
So we're going to eliminate that. And now we're going to go to the small loan that you say that you made to the defendant.
So Natasha came over, guys. He said she worked at...
Don't tell me what Natasha asked you. That's all hearsay. I need to know what conversations you had with the defendant.
Okay, but she came over...
But you can't tell me what she said, you see.
Okay. So
And
anyway,
if you made a contract, if you made a contract with Natasha for a loan of money, even if it went for his benefit, do you understand? Okay. Even if it went for his benefit, he's not responsible. If Natasha says, I want you to give, what's your first name?
Trevor.
Trevor, a loan to fix his car, and you say, okay, you need somebody to pay you back. Natasha has to say, I'll pay you back. However, you can't tell me that.
Caption coming up.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand? Try not to do that.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Adam, Julie, and Trevor.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice claim their former employee, Trevor McCormick, owes for the cost of a phone and a personal loan. Trevor is countersuing for unpaid wages.
Now, did you ever have a conversation with Trevor about money?
I do. I have a text message telling him...
No, tell me, not a text message.
The conversation was not verbal.
It was by text message?
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to see text message from him.
Yep. This has from Trevor. This is his number.
Okay. May I see it, please?
Julie hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
He did pay me $100 in cash.
Okay, so it's clear from this text exchange, sir, that you borrowed a certain amount of money from the plaintiff.
I did not borrow, Natasha.
Yes, well, it acknowledges it here because you say, I start that job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first check. It was for me, and I will pay it. That's what you wrote. Do you understand? Do you want to look at it?
No.
You don't want to look at it. You're not questioning me. So it's clear from this that you borrowed money from Miss Ailes.
I personally did not. I didn't even know what was going on.
Who wrote this? I start that job on the 14th.
That was me.
Well, then, that's in response to her text message to you that says, hello, Trevor. I heard you were moving out and I need that paid by the end of the month. I have been very patient as no attempt has been made on this. Thank you. And you immediately wrote back to her and said, I start that job on the 14th and I will pay you out of my first paycheck. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I'm going to get back and ask you the question I think I asked before. What was the loan for?
I broke down in Oklahoma.
In what month and year was that?
About September of last year.
September of 2021 is just about when you started dating Natasha.
Correct.
Okay, so your car broke down in Oklahoma. And?
And it had to get fixed.
And?
So I rode the Greyhound bus back up to Michigan and waited until my car got fixed, which took months.
I'm asking you, what was the loan for?
To go back down and get my car.
So it was $670 that you borrowed from her, and I want to know how it was that you got the money.
I came in to Julie's house, and Natasha said, you're going to Oklahoma to pick up your car, because I didn't have any money right then and there, but I wasn't going to ask anybody.
Just a second. I don't care what you were going to do, what you didn't do, what you thought about doing. You went into the house that the plaintiffs share.
Mm-hmm.
Not uh-huh. Uh-huh is not an answer. The answer is yes. The lovely Natasha was there.
Yes.
With Julie.
Yes.
What did you say and what did Julie say to you? Just Julie.
Julie didn't really say anything. She said, don't tell Adam about the money.
Oh, so she said she would give you money.
Yes.
And she knew exactly how much you needed.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
No.
Okay. When she gave you the money, did she give it to you in check or cash?
She didn't give me no money. She gave Natasha the money.
Okay. How much was it?
$700, around there.
And after it was given to you by Natasha, but you were all in the same room together.
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up. Yes.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand? Try not to do that. You were in the house with Julie and Natasha at some point, and at some point, money was discussed.
No.
Was money discussed in front of him?
No, it was not.
Okay. So your loan was not with him. Do you understand?
Yes.
Unless he ratifies the loan subsequently. Is that correct?
Correct.
This is from my person who just studied for the bar, and I have to go back in my mind 50 years. If my memory is correct, if you don't make a loan directly with someone, they cannot be obligated to repay that money. However, if they subsequently get use of that money and subsequently agree to repay you, they have ratified that contract.
Correct. You just have to decide if that's a ratification.
Yeah. What would be your take on that? Take a look at it very carefully. What would be your take?
It was for me, I will pay it. Seems pretty close to textbook ratification.
Yeah, I would say so. I start a job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first paycheck.
I just wanted to keep the peace because she was down my throat.
This woman was down your throat?
Yes.
She may have been annoyed, very annoyed, but she wasn't down your throat. She was the one who volunteered to give you money in your time of need. How could she be down your throat? Okay. So far you paid her back $100. Is that what he paid you back? So he owes you $600. Okay. So far, Mr. Snyder, I'm not with you on it, on the rent.
Okay.
I'm not with you on the lock change fees. I am with you on the phone, which you're going to get back. He's going to get that back within 5 days. Otherwise, he's going to have difficulty.
Here from the day that he did the phone purchases, instead of paying for the phones up front, he also added a bunch of other cordless phone chargers and everything else to the bill.
How much were the extras?
Totally, there's 2,000.
No, I don't want him total. Total, you're going to get the phone back. What were the extras that he charged onto the phone?
There is a $41.99.
$41.99.
There is a $20.99.
Okay. You know that I went to 7 years of postgraduate school for this. Keep going.
$29.99.
7 years. They were very hard years. I also took the bar exam. Keep going. $29.99.
$17.99.
Oh, it's getting worse. Not better for you, Mr. Snyder.
And $11.99.
Worse. A lot worse.
$122.95.
Okay. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
Working on the farm.
Okay. Tell me about that. From when to when did you work on the farm?
November to the end of March.
And what were you doing between November and March?
I was feeding cattle when Adam was on storm, watering them.
To March what?
taking
The end
after
of
him.
March?
Yes, right.
I thought you worked at a factory.
I did both.
Well, you can't do both. You work at a factory. I asked you if you had a job. You said, I work at a factory.
I did do both.
Well, now I need the name of the factory and find out what your shift was.
I was,
And you worked during the day.
yes.
From when to when?
From
Time.
6 to 6. Well, I had.
Just a second. Mr. McCormick, if you work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is not possible to work a full-time job for the plaintiff as well.
I had a schedule of three on, 2 off.
Okay. We're making it up as we're going along.
Trevor smirks. Caption coming up.
Did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did. Although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
That's
Oh,
incorrect.
just don't speak.
Judy raises her eyebrows at Trevor. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Adam, Julie, and Trevor.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice have accused their former employee, Trevor McCormick, of refusing to pay the cost of a phone and the balance of a loan. Trevor claims he was not paid for the work he did on their farm.
Now, did he work for you?
It would be very minimal. He would put hay bales out, which would take 10
He would
minutes.
put what?
Hay bales out for the cattle.
Hay bales.
Yes.
At approximately what time of day? Because I'm not getting...
He could come and do it when he got home from work.
Okay. And did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did.
Okay. Is there any reason why you never did?
Because he didn't do it very often, and he said he was just happy to help, although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
So he got paid when he worked for you?
He did.
That's
Oh,
incorrect.
just don't speak. From when to when?
When he helped me, it was very minimal. It would be...
No, I'm not talking about the hay. You said he did, in fact, work for me.
He did.
I want to know, but not on the farm. He worked someplace else.
He helped on another piece of farmland that I have.
Okay.
Where a barn had fallen down. We were tearing the steel off, and he worked 3 hours that morning.
3 hours what morning?
The last day that he was there, it would have been
So that's in March.
early, I would say the second week of March.
Okay. When was the first time he worked there?
I would say probably in January.
And he was working at this other plant from 6 to 6 in March,
Correct.
according to him. So he did some work for you in the first month, which was January.
Yeah, if he helped me, it might be 1 day a week.
Fine, I just want to know if he got paid for it. That's what he's...
Yes, he
We
did.
can't do May something. How much did you pay him?
It would depend on how much he worked. One day I gave him $300 for helping me for a day and a half on another demolition job I did.
And you paid him in cash?
Correct.
Okay.
That was for the demolition job. That wasn't for the farm.
It doesn't make any difference, sir. If you have a full-time job and you're working part-time someplace else and you say he paid you...
He did not pay me.
Well, you say he didn't pay you for the farm. What he's saying is he had a job with me. He was a demolition job for which he got paid, which you do not deny. Is that right?
I'm not.
You just said that's not what I asked you. He paid you for the job that you did part-time for him,
Yes, he paid me for that
demolition.
job, yes.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And what you're suing him for is allegedly money that he owes you for working on the farm during a period that does include March when you were working full-time someplace else.
Correct.
And working for him.
Yes.
And doing this work at the site in March, the first 2 weeks in March, because you got some money for that.
Correct.
So now you have, according to you, 3 jobs. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
First of all, you had no fixed financial arrangement with him at the farm.
Correct. He said he'd pay me what he can.
That is not a contract. Okay, but let's move forward with that. Tell me what your chores were at the farm.
I would go feed them hay.
Just feed who hay?
The cows.
Okay, how many cows do you have?
130.
Anybody else work on the farm or just him?
Just me mainly, and he would help when I was gone.
Okay, and in order to keep these animals alive, they have to be fed hay.
Correct.
For how many months did you feed them hay?
3.
Once a day?
Yes.
And what time would you do this?
Usually in the morning.
Before you went to work?
Yes.
That had to be 5 o'clock in the morning. You went to work at 6 o'clock. You had a shift, according to you, from 6 to 6.
Yes.
Okay, so how long did this take you in the morning when you had a full-time job?
Sometimes.
Not sometimes. I want you to tell me how long it took you.
Average about an hour and a half a day.
So let's say it took you an hour a day. And how many days did you do it?
I was with him every day before I got the job. I would go with him every day.
I don't care.
Okay.
For the 3 months, I'm asking you how many days you did it.
45.
That be right? In the 3 months, maybe 45 days? How many days did he put out hay?
If Trevor fed the cattle 12 days the whole time by himself, I'd be surprised.
And I helped him because I was there.
You did not help me when
Just
he was gone.
Yes.
You helped him with the bales of hay?
Yes, I helped him because we also had another hired hand that would help me too, so I was rotating between both of them.
Okay, so let's say he worked 20 hours. Did you pay him any extra money for this work?
No, not for feeding cattle.
Not feeding cattle. And you didn't have any arrangement with him whereby he would work on the farm and he would get something off his rent?
No.
Okay, so he has to be paid for that. Sarah Rose, would you look up and see if there's a minimum wage in Michigan? What's the federal minimum wage? I don't know anymore.
$15.
So the minimum wage is now $15 an hour. That's federal.
Yes, ma'am.
15 times 20.
$300.
Okay, so, Mr. Snyder, let's start with you. You are going to get your phone back within 5 days. On your cross-claim against Mr. Snyder, I am awarding you $300 on your counterclaim. That is for the work that you did on the farm. However, we are holding that check until he gets his phone back in good condition.
Yes.
Do you understand? Otherwise, you forfeit that money.
Yes, ma'am.
To him. Do you understand?
Yes.
With regard to the co-plaintiff, I find that you did, in fact, take a loan from her, that you initially did it through a third party, but that you ratified the fact that you would make payments on the loan by 2 things. First, by acknowledging it in writing, and second, by making a payment. So I'm awarding you $600 on your claim. Those are the orders of the court. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Trevor, then Adam and Julie.
I think they're scam artists.
We came here to try to teach him a lesson that when he enters into contract with somebody, the contract is a contract.
They're greedy. They want money. They need money.
For being greedy, we did a lot to help this guy out.
By doing pretty much anything they asked.
Well, we've decided we're not helping.
For an assault.
Judy enters the courtroom.
Court come to order. All rise.
She takes her seat behind the bench.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2035, Rodriguez versus Gastelum.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
What kind of a premises do you live in, sir?
It's a 4-bedroom house.
And I see here that you rent out some of the rooms in order to assist with your mortgage.
That's correct.
How many rooms do you rent out?
3.
And who lives in the other?
Right now it's Kathleen Meister, and then I have 2 other roommates.
And you use 1 room?
Correct.
When did you rent a room to the defendant?
It was January 22.
And what was the rent that you were charging him?
$750 a month.
When he came to you, did he have a dog?
No.
When did you move in?
About late January.
Give me a day.
22nd.
And you moved in alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Paid your rent on time?
Yes, ma'am.
February, paid your rent on time?
Yes, ma'am.
Lived there alone?
Yes, ma'am.
What about March?
Did I live there alone in March also? Yes, ma'am.
When did you get a dog?
I've had my dog
No, when did you get a dog that you brought into the house?
April 22nd, 23rd.
So several months after you moved in? Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And before you moved the dog in, did you have a discussion with the plaintiff?
Yes, ma'am.
Just prior to moving in with the dog. And what was the discussion that you had with the plaintiff?
That if it was okay if I were to bring my dog that I had in Alaska, since I had him since he was about 6-7 weeks.
And where had he been in the last 2 months?
He was still in Alaska staying with close friends, and I flew to Seattle, shipped my truck and all my belongings to Seattle and drove here. From Seattle, my dog, the person who was watching him, drove from Alaska to Montana, and I had gone to Montana to pick him up.
So you asked Mr. Rodriguez if it was okay if you brought your dog?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
Yes.
Did he say anything else?
He said, just clean
Now
up.
look at me.
He said, clean.
Did he say anything
He said,
else
clean
other
up
than
after the dog, make sure that the dogs don't fight, and just take care of him.
Okay. Nothing about him staying out of the house?
He said he wouldn't prefer him to be around the house, but he would not. It would be okay for him to be in my room.
In your room?
Mm-hmm. The dog stayed with me in that room a few nights, and he knowingly knew about it.
No, I don't want to know what he knew. I want to know what your arrangement was. So your arrangement with him, according to you, I haven't asked him, but according to you, is that you asked him if you could bring your dog. He said okay for the dog to stay outside, but could stay in your room.
He said he didn't want him in the living area. My dog could also be in the garage or
in your room. And was everything okay in April when you brought the dog?
Yeah, everything was
What
fine.
about May?
May, I was looking for a new place. I was homeless because I had spent 5 days in jail.
Oh, I'm talking about before you went to jail, sir. Before you went to jail, because this case is about an assault, which is what the plaintiff is claiming. Plaintiff is claiming that you assaulted him in the home, and that took place on April 30th. That was shortly after your dog arrived.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the dog was the reason for the altercation.
A part of
because
the reason, but that's
in
not how it started.
February, March, and up until April, the end of April, when the dog was there, I see no evidence here that there was any difficulty.
You're right.
Fair statement? Yeah. So that the problem arose when the dog came. Now, this woman's name is Kathleen. She's interspersed in both the complaint and the answer in this case. She had a cat. Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
He had a cat. And it was a house cat.
Yes, ma'am.
Plaintiff has a dog.
A few dogs.
And they live in the house.
Yes, they stay in the garage and in the backyard, yes.
Garage and backyard, do they stay in the house?
They do not go inside that.
Okay, so his dogs stay outside, and he said to you, according to you, the dogs can stay outside in the garage and in your room.
Yes.
In April, did your dog get out of your room or into the house?
Yes.
Yes. On what date?
April 30th, because I was allowing him inside to go to my room.
On April 30th, the dog was where?
In the backyard, but I was bringing him inside to come to my room.
You were bringing him from outside to come into your room. I haven't asked him. He says in his papers that the dog was supposed to remain outside. You were bringing him inside to your room.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it is your claim here that it is an emotional support dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also had at least a couple of months where you left the dog in Alaska.
With
right?
people I trusted.
I don't care people who you trusted or not. If you needed an emotional support animal, the emotional support animal has to travel with you. So don't show me a certificate. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, did that certificate that you have come from a psychiatrist?
No.
No. Did it come from a psychologist?
No.
Did it come from any doctor who was treating you?
There was a doctor's note, yes.
Was a doctor who was treating you?
Yes.
Yes. Not a psychiatrist?
Not a psychiatrist, no.
Not a psychologist?
Not a psychologist.
And you took this note and you had to send it to somebody over the internet?
Yes.
And then they sent you a certificate?
Yes, and with an ID.
That's what I got. Okay, so now you're bringing the dog on April 30th from the backyard into the house, and?
He attempts to grab the dog.
No. Is the dog on a leash?
No, he's very well.
Just a sec. Is the dog on a leash?
No.
Were you holding the dog by the collar?
Yes.
And now you're taking the dog from outside to inside. What did he say to you?
No dogs in the house.
Because that's what he had said to you before. You can have your dog, but no dogs in the house. I want to tell you something. That's what I believe. So he said no dogs in the house, and you said to him,
I'm going to bring my dog into my room.
But when you asked him if you could bring the dog to the house, there is no question in my mind that he said to you, bring the dog to the house, but the dog doesn't come into the house.
He stayed in my room a few nights prior to that.
I don't
He had
care.
already
Listen to me.
approved
That's what the arrangement was, sir.
Okay.
The arrangement was not what you told me before. The arrangement was with him. Yes, you can bring the dog to the house. I will let you do that. But the dog has to stay either in the garage or outside like my dogs.
Okay.
And you said, in effect, screw you. I'm bringing my dog, and I'm bringing my dog into my room. You're the tenant. That was the agreement. You can have the dog, but the dog must not be in the house. That's what your landlord told you. You brought the dog from Alaska, and at the very beginning, you brought the dog into your room. When had you decided that you were going to breach the agreement with him?
The very first night I went to receive my dog, he stayed at the house inside my room with me.
So the very first night that you brought him, you decided to breach the agreement that
He
you
had
had.
knowingly said it was okay.
Did you tell him it was okay?
Never. I have texts.
I'd like to see it.
I have to scroll back.
Scroll
quite
to
a
wherever
while.
you have to scroll. Scroll down to the creation. I don't care. I have all day here. Nobody is hungry.
I'm a
Still
little
have 2
hungry.
more cases to do before lunch. Everybody gets a little testy, including me.
I don't have the text. I do not have the text.
Yeah, good. That's what I thought. Okay. It wasn't on the 30th that the dog got loose in the house. It was sometime before that, maybe a day or so before that. On the 30th was a day, sir, that you got locked out of the house. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Is
Your
not
Honor.
an answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what time of the day was it that you got locked out of the house?
2 o'clock, middle afternoon, late afternoon.
And according to what I read, you went to the back of the house to let yourself into the house, and you got into an altercation with Kathleen. Absolutely, she shouldn't have put her hands on and slapped you because you were fresh. Because you wouldn't be fresh to me, right?
Fresh?
Fresh. That's what you say to a child. Fresh. How old are you?
65.
How old are you?
25.
That's fresh.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Armando and Samuel.
Armando Rodriguez claims his former tenant, Samuel Gastelum, is responsible for damages from an assault. Samuel says he was the one assaulted and falsely arrested.
Now, you got into an altercation with Kathleen.
Not quite, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what happened.
I had been outside, I went out the garage, and I was playing a time-sensitive game on my Xbox. So I was going back to the room, and I knocked on the garage door. No one answered, knocked on it a few times, pounded. Then I went back around and knocked on the sliding glass door a few times, one of the few times. Finally, Kathleen comes up and answers the door. At that point, I've been out there for about 10 minutes. So I'm upset. I'm like, who locked me out? Who locked the door? She gets completely defensive. She says, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And I'm like, I'm asking who it was, because Armando and I had discussed.
Because you're on a time-sensitive video game.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
So you were on a time-sensitive video game.
Something
How old are you?
25 years old.
Okay, so now you're on a time-sensitive video game and somebody either on purpose or accidentally locked the door, and you think it's Kathleen.
No, I did not accuse anyone. I just asked was who locked me out, because I had been locked out earlier that week, again, earlier by Armando.
Just a second, did you have a key to the house?
On my...
No. Did you have...
I had a front door key, not to the garage door, not to the sliding door.
But you had a front door key.
Yes, Your Honor, but there's a gate. There's a big fence, and I didn't have a key to the gate that was locked.
You couldn't get into the house even with your front door key.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, after you had a conversation with her, there was no physicality between the two of you.
Not at that moment. But once Armando came around the corner, he's like, it was me who locked you out. So me and him...
Now, just a second. He said, it was me that locked you out. Did he say he did that on purpose, or was it...
It was an accident, is what
Did he
said.
say? Okay, so he said it was me that locked you out. It was an accident.
It wasn't the first time.
It's not...
Yes, Your Honor.
That's yes. First, second, I've locked my children out of the house many times, sometimes on purpose,
I'm not his
sometimes
child.
by accident.
I'm his roommate.
It doesn't make any difference. So he said to you, it was an accident. And you said to him...
It's happened before.
And he said to you...
Those were accidents also.
Okay, and he said those were accidents also.
Yes.
And you said to him...
I said you need to be more attentive, more aware. If someone had just walked out and left the door unlocked, you should probably go and see if anyone's out there before you turn around and lock the door.
And he said?
He said he apologized.
So he said, I apologize.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Throwing out that whole conversation, me and him are arguing back
Okay,
and
but
forth.
at the end, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I apologize.
It's not so clear-cut. It's not
Well, it's at the end of this back and forth. You should have been more careful. You should look to see who's at the door. You've done it before. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I apologize. Now I haven't apologized. And
in
next.
the middle of that altercation, Kathleen kept butting in. She said, you don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to me like that. I said, I wasn't even talking to you. I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm talking to Armando. I said, mind your own business. She said, oh, you don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me what to do. I said, mind your own business. She said, say that to me one more time. And I said, mind your own business. She walks across the hall and she slaps me across the face, and Armando grabs her hand right after she smacks me. And instead of retaliating aggressively or any type of thing, I call the police. Immediately call the police. And while we're waiting there for the police, that's when I get the apology from Armando. That's when he's like, okay, let's make a deal. Let's try to work this out before the police get there. The police get there, they ask me what had happened.
And you say that this older woman slapped you because you were
across
fresh.
the face.
Because you were fresh.
No, because
she shouldn't have put her hands on and slapped you because you were fresh. Because you wouldn't be fresh to me, right?
Fresh?
Fresh. That's what you say to a child. Fresh. You were being fresh. And she should not have put her hands on you. Would I have called the police about that? Maybe.
Except I am not a child, Your
just
Honor.
a second.
I'm not a child. I'm not related to these people.
I just said to you, you were being fresh. How old are you?
65.
How old are you?
25.
That's fresh. That's fresh, because first you accused her of locking you out.
I didn't accuse her.
Yeah. Okay. So after she slapped you, the police arrived. They left. She said, she slapped you. Yes. You have marks. You have cuts. You have bruises. You have abrasions. No. They left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did you expect when you called the police for them to arrest her? What did you want them to do, sir?
Was I supposed to retaliate? How was I supposed to retaliate? Was I supposed to hit her back?
Just a second. No.
Okay, then what was I supposed to do?
I'm not telling you what to do.
Okay.
I'm just asking you, sir, did you expect them, when you called the police, to arrest Kathleen because she slapped you?
No, I expected there to be consequences for her assaulting me.
What? So
I don't
what
know what
did
the
you think?
consequences
So
were.
what did you think that they should do?
Whatever they feel was right. Whatever is justice.
Okay. Now let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
So now the police are gone, and
I go speak to Armando. I asked why he sacrificed his integrity for lying for Kathleen, for saying that she didn't slap him, because he told the police he witnessed no such event. He didn't see nothing. You know, he was standing right there, grabbed her hand. Kathleen says she didn't do it. And the police came up to me before they left. They said, they're telling me something else. I just straight up, I just don't believe you. I just like, okay, well, what else can I do? I go to Armando and I'm like, why would you sacrifice your integrity? Why would you lie to the police? Why would you let another roommate physically assault me and just no consequences whatsoever? And at that point is when I tried to bring my dog inside and just go straight to my room.
Just a second. So at that time, after this hot spot is over,
it got heated again.
Got heated again.
Mm-hmm.
Your reaction was childish, and you said, I'm going to get my dog that I was told not to bring in the house, and I'm going to bring my dog in the house.
I was going to my...
Just a second. I don't care if you were going to Pluto. Your reaction after this was, they can't tell me what to do. I'm going outside, and I'm going to bring my dog inside. He'll let you bring the dog to the house, but the dog can't come in the house, stays outside with his dogs. There's only one animal in the house, and that's Kathleen's house cat. That's it. So you went to bring your dog from outside to in the house.
Yes, Your Honor.
In violation of the agreement that you had with your landlord. After the police had come, I just want you to realize what's going on.
Oh,
You know, I just want you to realize that they don't actually keep me here because I'm 5'6" and gorgeous. I understand what happened when you were disappointed that Kathleen had slapped you like a child because you were fresh. And she's not your mother, and she had no right, even your mother doesn't have a right to put their hands on you.
Correct.
But you got slapped, not injured, no broken jaw, no broken skin. Police didn't see anything because if they did, they would have arrested somebody. And they left. And you were royally miffed. Because you got locked out of the house for which you apologized, you missed your time-sensitive video game. Now, I'm not sure what that is, because I'm not a 25-year-old idiot that plays video games during the day.
Caption coming up. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Armando and Samuel.
Armando Rodriguez is accusing his former roommate, Samuel Gastelum, of breaking their rental agreement and assaulting him. Samuel claims he was falsely arrested after Armando lied to the police.
Now, several things that happened that day, right? You got locked out and you were playing a time-sensitive video game.
Yes, Your Honor.
And because you got locked out of the house for which he apologized, you missed your time-sensitive video game. Now, I'm not sure what that is, because I'm not a 25-year-old idiot that plays video games during the day. When I was 25 years old, I actually worked. I did. I actually worked. I know that may seem foreign to you, but I did actually work. And so after all of this altercation took place, you said, now I'm going to show him. Now I'm going to bring my dog into the house. And then there was another altercation. Second one.
Yes.
That's the one we're talking about. By the way, maybe I'm being terribly unkind to you, sir. How do you support yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Pretty foreign, I know.
For whom?
I'm a cultivator.
You work 5 days a week?
Yes, Your Honor. And in my free time,
What do you
I like to
cultivate?
play video
What do you
games.
what do you cultivate?
Marijuana, cannabis.
How long have you worked for them?
Since March, so about 5 months.
Prior to that, you were in Alaska.
Prior to January, I was in Alaska. Before March, before getting the job at the cultivation facility for cannabis, I was helping my uncles do concrete. So working isn't very foreign to me, as you might see.
Prior to March, you were working with your uncles in concrete.
Yes,
Where?
Your Honor. In Victorville, in California.
You were working. You were working for your uncle prior to March, getting a job as a cultivator. And what I want to know is, how long had you been separated from your emotional support dog?
I spent 4 months away from him, and those 4 months were from January to April. For finding a
January,
job.
February, March, April. And what were you doing in Alaska?
I was born and raised in Alaska.
Alaska is not a born. That's not a job, sir. What were you doing in Alaska?
I was, for the last 6 months of my time in Alaska, I was a bud tender.
Okay, tell me what happened after the dog incident.
Well, the dog comes in. He says that he's not going to follow house rules anymore. He says as of right now, he's going to do what he wants to do. So he just gets the dog from the backyard and he comes inside the house. And I feel that it's my responsibility to enforce the house rules. So I physically grab his dog and I move the dog from inside the house to the backyard. That happens once. He gets the dog and then he physically puts him back in the house.
Where in the house?
This is, you could say, the kitchen area. So now I basically attempt to repeat what I did the first time. So I physically grab the dog a second time and I'm now physically taking him out, at which point he gets from behind me and he puts me into a chokehold and I black out. I come to, I look for my phone, I find my phone, dial 911, police show up like in maybe 2 or 3 minutes and I'm still trying to get.
And that's the assault that you are referring to today. Did the EMS check you out?
I was taken to the hospital.
May I see the report?
Yeah, I got a report and then I have.
He produces a document.
The bills associated with with.
Was Kathleen a witness to this?
She saw.
No, don't tell me what she saw. Was she a witness to any part of that?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you step up, please?
Kathleen stands at Armando's side.
Tell me, at what point you came in on this altercation?
When they were arguing about the dog.
The first time or the second time? Well, you don't know whether.
I don't really know.
Were you a witness to any of the physical confrontation that resulted in Mr. Rodriguez going to the hospital?
I knew that they.
Don't tell me what you knew.
Okay.
It's what you saw.
Okay, what I saw was Armando trying to put the dog back outside because he's a big pit bull, right? And then he would put him out and then Samuel would bring him back in. And then the last time Armando was putting him back outside and Samuel came behind Armando. And what I did was I left and went and called the police because I was afraid he was going to get hurt.
All right, sir. Now tell me your version of those events.
Could I show her statement from the previous court?
No, I want you to first tell me your version of the events.
So I let Apollo inside. My dog's name is Apollo, and he's going to grab Apollo to let him out. And we're both kind of grabbing Apollo, pulling him, we're both kind of fighting over him a little bit. As I'm pulling him inside more, Armando starts grabbing me. And so we get into this altercation and we're like wrestling back and forth.
Just a second. He's trying to get your pit bull outside and at the same time he's grabbing you? Is that the...
No, it was, we were both grabbing the dog.
So you were trying to keep the dog inside and he was trying to put the dog outside?
I was trying to take him to my room, yes. Take him.
You were trying to take him to your room, he was trying to put him outside.
Yes.
And?
As we're both kind of fighting for the dog, he grabs me. He lets go of the dog and then grabs me.
How did he grab you?
He grabs me by the arm and then he like starts tugging a little bit. And so we're wrestling. We just start wrestling and it gets a little bit more violent and I go to restrain him and he's hitting me. He's hitting me from with his arms. He's trying to scratch me and I just restrained him until I felt not threatened no more. I released him. I get up, I grab my dog, I go to the room, I call the police.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your medical records that day?
They would not take me. They didn't.
Not they would not take you. Do you have your medical records for that day?
I have my arrest report that says apparently they didn't.
May I see the arrest report, please?
They refused to take pictures.
Don't tell me what they didn't do. I can read.
Kevin takes the document from Samuel, then brings it to Judy.
Do you have medical insurance, sir?
No.
None. Okay, so you had an emergency room CT scan that was $8,640.62. The other bill for that day was for radiology, which was $518. This is the emergency room, which was $1,109. Okay, well, that takes us over this court's limit jurisdictionally. Now, you, sir, subsequently had a hearing with regard to this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you testify, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you testify, sir?
I did.
At the end of that hearing, was there a restraining order granted or not?
It was granted.
For how long? Do you have a copy of that?
I have a copy.
It was a year.
So a judge, like me, probably not as good looking, after hearing, so I don't have to hear it, all of the evidence, the judge found that there was more evidence than not that you assaulted the plaintiff and granted the plaintiff an order of protection for 1 year. After that happened, you were still in the house.
After the assault or after the hearing?
After the assault.
After the assault, I was arrested and
then you came back to the house.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what I asked. You were still in the house, but
Yeah.
you're no longer in the house.
No.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
He's a liar, and I told the truth, and I won the case.
I didn't aggressively attack him.
That was the rules that I had set. My dogs don't even come in the house.
I defended myself and my dog.
Sarah and Judy.
I think there was some genuine confusion on the defendant's behalf about the term fresh.
When I said to him, you were fresh to an older person?
Exactly. You know, he had a little bit of an attitude, a little.
for living expenses, stolen property, and vet bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2049, Councilman versus Jorge Watson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Horath, this is your mother,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is your girlfriend.
My fiance, yes.
Is she divorced?
She's widowed.
Since when?
June 6th,
Of what year?
2022.
Well, let me understand this. Prior to you being a widow, you were involved with Mr. Horath. Were you divorced?
I was going through a divorce.
Okay. And then he passed away.
Yes.
Mr. Horath, in 2013, you were incarcerated. How long?
5 years.
And you have 2 little girls.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were incarcerated, were the children living with you prior to being incarcerated?
Yes.
They were living with you?
Yes.
When you went to prison, was there any reason the children didn't go with their mother?
She left him with my mother.
So your mother obtained custody of your children 9 years ago
Yes.
and raised them.
Yes.
You got out of prison when?
September 2017.
And when you got out of prison, your mother invited you to come and live in the house?
Yes.
In her house?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else lives in her house?
My grandmother.
Who I understand from these papers is suffering from
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. So your mother was taking care of her mother and your 2 daughters.
Yes.
So your fiance now, who looks as if she's expecting a child, was your mother's next door neighbor?
Yes.
And you became involved with her when?
End of October 2020, or 19, I'm sorry.
And when you became involved with her, you have 2 children.
Yes.
You invited her with your mother's permission to move in to your mother's house with her 2 children.
Yes, ma'am.
We did agree that she could move in and stay in the guest.
Had you been living in the house by yourself with the 2 girls?
Yes, I have.
How large a house is it?
It's pretty good, decent size. It was 1,980 square feet, now expanded out another 800 feet, so quite. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths.
How do you support yourself?
I own my own business. I'm a nurse. Due to the fact of taking care of my granddaughters and my parents at the time, I had to resign from Fort Irwin, working there because of couldn't commit to the hours. So because of that, I went ahead and got my own business of doing home infusions, and that started right before the pandemic. And so I work a lot.
Anybody help you take care before they moved in? Anybody help you take care of the girls and your mother?
No, it was me.
Now, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
And you?
Nursing student and mother?
So you don't work?
No.
How do you support yourself?
I was going to school and...
Well, supporting yourself doesn't go to school unless you were getting money for going to school. Were you getting money for going to school?
Yes.
From whom?
From financial aid.
How much?
Maybe like $800, $900 a month. And this was before I was living with Danny and Nancy.
And after you moved in with Danny and Nancy?
I was helping her take care of her mother, and her VA was paying me to take care of her.
She was getting the Veterans Aid and Attendance. I gave her that extra money to help out with my mom and those expenses.
And then currently, I'm taking care of our young son we have together.
So you have a child together and expecting another one?
Yes.
So then you'll have 4 children, correct? Yes. And you will have 4 children?
I will have 4 children, yes.
Sounds as if your mother did some very nice things for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds as if Miss Castleman did some very nice things for you.
Yes.
Why do you think she's suing you?
Out of anger.
Mr. Horath, why would she be angry at either one of you?
Because we decided that we were going to go ahead off and do our own thing, and she was no longer included in being part of that.
Like what?
Well, being part of a family or a unit. Once my grandmother's health declined and she went to a facility, there was no more communication about anything that was going on around the house anymore.
I don't know what you mean by that. Your fiance's arrangement was that she was being paid by the VA to take care of your grandmother.
Yes.
And then your grandmother, according to you, had to go into a facility.
Yes.
Which means your fiance isn't getting any more payment from the VA.
Correct.
Now, you're working, you drive a truck.
Yes.
Were you contributing towards the running of the household?
Oh, of course, yes.
How much?
Whatever needed to be paid.
No. Tell me what you paid.
I paid the Edison, half the Edison.
Well, that's not a set amount.
I paid $300 a month.
Well, that's an amount. So you paid $300 a month towards the Con Edison.
Yes, ma'am.
What else did you pay?
We paid for the trash.
How much was the trash?
$50 a month.
What else?
I paid for the food.
For who?
For our family.
Well, for all of you or just for you, your fiance, and the 4 children?
And my grandmother, yes, and my grandmother, and Nancy, too.
Not for me.
Shh.
She would come over and have dinner with us quite often. And I would make her meals and send them to her.
What you're saying is, because I read when you said she would come over for dinner, there came a time when there were an awful lot of people living in the house, and your mother, because it was so crowded, moved into a trailer on the premises, and you moved into the master suite.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Say thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Now, did you pay for anything else that you're not telling me?
Yes, we paid for the internet.
Their internet.
Yes.
Shh. For your own internet?
Yes.
I'm talking about expenses for the house. I assume the mortgage was paid off. Is that what you wrote here?
Danny did pay for the property taxes.
Okay, well then that was my next question. Property taxes. Did you pay for any of that?
Yes.
How much did you pay?
It was $12.64 a year.
Anything else?
Remodeling expenses that we did to the home.
I know it was expanded, and it was expanded after you were there.
Yes.
Yes. And do you know how much the remodeling expenses were?
The additions were done before I came home, but everything else was added to when we were living there.
Like what?
The pellet stove had went out, so we bought a new one.
Oh, that's I'm not interested.
Okay.
I'm not interested in that. I'm talking about regular. So let me get to my trusty computer. We have $300 a month for Con Ed, so I don't even have to do that. I could do 1, 2, 6, 4. Everybody knows me now. I'm a little challenged with regard to these things. Divided by 12 equals $105 a month. And $300 a month for Con Ed and $50 for trash is $5. So you paid in total the expenses that you told me, $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house. I'm just setting the stage for this. You paid $455 a month for living in a 5-bedroom house, and your mother moved out to live in a trailer so that you could be in the master suite with your fiance, a new baby, and one on the way. Those are the objective facts that I have.
Okay.
Now, so I asked you, because your mother is suing for a lot of stuff, and I don't understand why somebody would take this approach when she was nothing but good to both of you. You screwed up your life. She got stuck raising your 2 children, working full-time, and taking care of a sick mother. You go to school, and you're a full-time mother, but that's very nice. But she's not your mother. She's not your grandmother. She's nobody to you. Mm-hmm. And she took you in and your 2 children. What do you think you did to make her so angry that she would sue you? I'm curious.
I honestly don't know.
Well, you started to tell me that you moved on because she ultimately gave you notice to leave.
We actually gave her notice we were leaving, and that's when all that started.
Okay. Did you also tell your mother that you wanted to buy the house?
Yes, I did.
From her?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, that started the trouble. And your mother's response was?
Of course. She said, okay.
And what happened?
I went and applied for a loan. They told me that I did not meet the criteria for the loan. I said, okay, that's fine. What about a rent-to-own option to buy? And she said, okay. We tried to get a real estate agent to go ahead and write out the contract. At that point in time, she wanted to move one of her nurses onto the property, into the trailer that she was living in. I did not feel comfortable with a stranger living on our property. I don't know them. I don't want them around my children. I don't know who they are. And if I'm going to be buying a home, I wouldn't want to.
You're not buying anything. You were renting.
With the option to buy. I want to buy the home, and then when I go back to apply for the loan in a year, I was going to buy the home.
Maybe, maybe not. Mr. Horath, so far, you see, you have somebody who has done all things to make your life, which you screwed up a little bit, more comfortable. Takes you in, takes your girls in, takes your girlfriend in, takes your girlfriend's kids in, allows you to have more latitude and more freedom by moving herself out of her own home, which is totally paid off, into a trailer so that you could be more comfortable. And she said, you want to buy the house? Fine. You couldn't get a loan. Well, could I rent to buy? She says, okay. but she's still a working person as opposed to your fiance.
Caption, coming up.
You ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nancy, Danny, and Trinity.
Nancy Castleman claims her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, owe for living expenses and stolen property. Danny and Trinity say they always paid their share of the bills.
Okay, now, she's still a working person, and she said, I would like to move one of my nurses. She's not talking about moving in some sex offender into a trailer next to her grandchildren, who she's raised. So I wouldn't see what your problem is with that, but that's neither here nor there. So that started an acrimonious separation. I'm not going to rent the house because I'm not going to allow you to move somebody that I don't know. I'm not even going to meet them. Somebody that I don't know into the trailer. Where are you living now?
We have our own home now.
Where?
Because we didn't agree with, we didn't want to live with her nurse, so we went
Just a second. I said the question is, where is your own home?
in Hellendale,
Is that where she lives?
near
How near?
10 miles up the road.
And when did you move there?
July 14th.
How big a house?
It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath.
Who owns the house?
We're renting
And how much are you paying in rent?
$2,500.
So you got a smaller house at 5 times what you were paying her. Is that what I'm hearing? You paid $455 monthly to your mother.
We also paid her van payment, but we
What?
also used the van. Her van payment, it was $900 a month.
Did you use the van?
Yes.
Good. Then you,
Well,
good.
we used it to also take her mother to,
Did you use the van
yes,
for you and your children and his children?
yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So I want to know if she's right down the road and she was good to you for a decade, why is she not included with your family anymore?
She chose not to be.
Really?
Yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or family functions or church functions, she would never come.
Well, you say never. You just moved out a month ago.
This is prior to us moving out. We haven't talked to her since we moved.
You mean prior to you moving out, you would invite her?
Oh, yeah.
And what you said was, could you read that back? She's working all the time? Is that, I just want to know if that's what he said.
He said, yeah, she wants to work all the time. When we invite her to do things or church functions, she would never come.
Okay. Unpaid living expenses, electric bill. All right, let's get to the electric bill. He said he paid $300 a month. What does he owe for the electric bill and for what months?
I was on a level pay plan for every month, and it went up higher. The rates have increased for in the past year. So that was $900. It was $1,800, the bill that came out. So it actually increased over the last year, and I have copies of that. So I asked for them to pay half.
Did they ever pay the extra money?
No.
Okay. And they continue to live there?
That just came up in May, yes.
Okay, well, then I'm not interested in that. Go ahead.
And
what else? What other living expenses?
Well, the other electric bill, they were still there. They didn't pay for that one.
Which
was
one?
The one from June to July.
Were you there in June, July?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence that I did pay.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
You paid $3, not the whole amount.
No, I did pay.
Just let me see that you paid it.
Danny produces a document, then hands it to Kevin. He brings it to Judy, who reviews it.
June 19th, $600.
That was not for this electric bill. It was for...
No, that was for Edison.
It says Con Edison.
Yes. There was another bill that still needed, it was like $723.
I don't care.
That he owed me for
I
it.
don't care. He paid $600 in June of 2022. You have vet bills here and personal items taken without permission. And the personal items taken without permission, you took some of her things. What did you take that didn't belong to you?
Nothing.
Well, you acknowledged that you did. You acknowledged that either you or your fiance took things that didn't belong to you. You said you returned them, but you took them.
They were packed by other family members that were helping us pack.
And?
So
they were taken without her permission?
Yes.
By your agents, by people who were helping you, so they were your agents. What was taken?
I guess there was a gun that
Not guess. I don't want to hear guess.
There was a gun that was packed.
Okay. Did you get the gun back?
I got the gun back next day.
It was returned, yes.
What else?
That's as far as I know.
What else was missing?
The ammo.
The ammunition for the gun.
I don't have any ammunition.
I wouldn't have a gun without ammo.
Well, go and look for it. What else?
KitchenAid machine.
What is that?
A KitchenAid for mixing and making. I bought that for my mom. They took that.
That was given to us by my grandmother because she can no longer bake, or actually given to her because she bakes.
And she even, for Mother's Day, Nancy brought, her and Granny, her mother, Nancy brought me the attachment. It makes pasta for the KitchenAid for Mother's Day. So she was aware that her mother gave me, when she moved to the facility, that she gave me the make.
Oh, she moved to a facility, she can't make a gift. If she's moving to a facility because she has Alzheimer's, she can't make a gift.
I have power of attorney over her.
Now, if what you're telling me is that you did take it and that the plaintiff sort of ratified that by buying you an attachment for it for Mother's Day, that I'll ask her about. Okay. Now, Ms. Castleman, listen to me very carefully. Did you buy Miss Watson around Mother's Day a pasta attachment for the KitchenAid?
Yes, ma'am, I did. For my mom. With my mom.
I don't...
Because they were supposed to be cooking together.
No. No. You bought an attachment for it, and if you buy an attachment, that was a gift, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you made the gift, you handed the gift to whom?
To Trinity.
Right. So even if your mother didn't have the mental capacity, you could have argued, to make a gift, and it was yours, you ratified the gift by buying her something that could only be utilized with that machine. So I'm not interested in the machine. Could we move forward, please? I have 7 years of postgraduate education. I'm getting very tired of this case.
Okay.
Anything else? Vet bill. Now we'll get to the vet bill. Okay. You had to go to the emergency room when and for what, Ms. Castleman?
I was having issues with my stomach. I was diagnosed with diverticulitis and had to go to the emergency.
I can imagine. When?
That was in June, beginning of June.
June of this year. Who took you to the emergency room?
I had to take an Uber. I couldn't drive.
Who was home?
Trinity and her family.
And her family. Mm-hmm. And when you went to the emergency room, where was the van?
The van was at the home.
Why didn't she take you to the emergency room?
She said she couldn't do that. She said that she was too busy and stressed out.
Is that right?
I was dealing, my children's father just passed away that day.
And I was there with you.
Just a second. You were separated from him. Why couldn't you take her to the emergency room?
Because my children just found out that their dad passed away.
So
I was dealing with their emotions.
Just a second. I'm just trying to figure out why you couldn't take her to the emergency room. You've been living with your mother for a while now, since you got out of jail. How many times has your mother been to the emergency room?
Quite a few.
How many?
More than 10 that I know of.
And did you take her to the emergency room since you've been home?
I have before, yes.
How many times did you take her?
2 to 3 times, at least.
When was the last time you took her?
Maybe a year ago.
And what was wrong then?
Her sciatic nerve.
Did you wait with her?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, because that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Excuse me a second.
Get it.
Judy produces a fly swatter, then swats a fly with it.
Okay. Don't write to me if you're a fly lover. I don't care.
Caption coming up.
You did absolutely nothing wrong. If I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Nancy, Danny, and Trinity.
Nancy Castleman has accused her son, Danny Horath, and his fiancée, Trinity Watson, of taking advantage of her kindness. Danny and Trinity claim Nancy became upset when they stopped doing her favors.
Well, Miss Watson, I know that you have an excuse. If it were me and I had been living off somebody else for years, I would have put my kids in the van and say, we have to take Grandma to the emergency room. That would just be me. And deal with my children in the van 5 minutes later.
And I would have if I wasn't dealing with my children at the time, and she was aware of that. I think she even took a Lyft or an Uber. She let me know it was okay.
I'm just telling you. I'm trying to get some sympathy going for the two of you. I'm not getting any sympathy going for the two of you. Did she ask you to watch her dog?
No, she, like normal. I have a dog, too, on the property, and it was a mutual agreement that anytime one of us were gone, we would always make sure the dog went out to use the restroom. But the day her dog had an injury, I wasn't home.
Where were you?
Gymnastics competition.
It just happened at night.
When was your dog injured?
On the day that I went to the ER. I asked her before, I said, I have to go, my lift is here, and can you feed my dogs? And because they're in their trailer still, and Molly's still on the bed, and I didn't want her jumping down, and can you take them out? I don't know when I'll be back. The Uber was there, or the Lyft was there, and I left. And when I came back home, it was about 5:30 in the morning. I noticed the dogs were in there, and that Asher was cut up. He had big old laceration.
Did you know what happened? Could you figure out what happened?
No, I think I know now it was probably under their trailer while he was out, because she did say that she took him out, but she forgot to feed them, and she was home.
That night I was home, yeah.
Did you see her dog injured?
No.
Did you feed her dog that day?
No, I did forget to feed the dogs. I took her small dog, Tamale, off the bed, and I had them go out, and then I put them right back in, and I went back on to the house.
And you forgot to feed them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. But when you went in there, the dog was not injured?
No, he was not.
Okay. The last part of this, and then I'm actually finished. Money owed for unpaid living expenses. Anything other than what we have discussed?
They're supposed to pay rent.
Starting when?
It was supposed to initially have been in November for January of 2022, because since my mom had to go, away because she couldn't take care of her anymore, I had to do what I have to do.
You mean after she stopped watching your mother?
That's when I mostly enforced it. But there are text messages that they agreed to pay.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
I understand, Mr. Horath and Miss Watson, that the agreement was that you would live there paying certain expenses but not rent, as long as you, Miss Watson, and or Mr. Horath, when you were home, would take care of her mother so that she could work.
Yes.
Yes.
And that stopped at a particular point.
Yes, in May.
That stopped in May.
Yes.
Okay.
Judy reviews a printout of a text exchange.
Well, it does seem that there were arguments back and forth about these expenses, but never wholly an understanding that that was going to happen.
Your Honor, I had several conversations with my son while he's truck driving. He didn't really talk to her particularly, because I think she had a lot of influence on that. He would have done the
Whether he did or whether he did, this comes from Danny himself. He says, okay, check this out. I'll call the state inspectors for the septic room additions in the bathroom that needs permits first.
She did.
Just a second. What kind of thing is that? How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
37.
How many times have you been married?
2.
And how old are you?
28.
And that's 2 in addition to this current engagement.
No, then it would just be 1.
And you?
Just 1.
Well, then you're not married, so you've each been married once before.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to look at your mother. Maybe in the next couple of years, maybe, she will be here, and maybe she won't. I'm sure when you married the first time, you expected that to be forever because you made a couple of children, right?
Yes.
I hope you'll be able to see that face for a very long time, but she had another husband before you. You're only going to have one mother. And your mother was really good to you, and really good to a stranger and her children. And she didn't invite them in and say, well, I'm going to apply for some assistance because now, no. She worked all the time. According to you, she chose to work. She chose to work all the time instead of going to church with you. You have no idea how ridiculous that sounds. You have no idea how ridiculous it sounds to me that Miss Watson says to me, I have children. I can't work. Well, she had 2 children, yours. And she worked and had your 2 children that she had to take care of. And she's much older than Miss Watson. Do you understand? Yes. If you have a work ethic, you have a work ethic. If you don't have a work ethic, you don't have a work ethic. But right now, she took care of you since you got out of jail. That's a long time. And for you to cut her off from yourself and her grandchildren is pretty outrageous to me. But you're 37 years old, and you have 4 children. Now 6, because they don't have a father anymore, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I don't know what you were doing with all your extra money, but to your mother you were paying $400 a month for a 5-bedroom house, and now you're paying $2,500 a month rent in a 3-bedroom house, and I assume that that's plus trash, Con Edison, and internet, and everything else that goes along with the house. So I don't know who's paying for that, unless you were just stashing away money. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't even want to go into it. Anyway, Miss Castleman, it's not worth it. You did the right thing with him. You took him in. You did absolutely nothing wrong. But you didn't have a contract with him, and you didn't have a contract with her. And I can't enforce giving you money when there was no enforceable contract. But if I looked up the word ungrateful in the dictionary, their pictures would be there. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Nancy, then Danny, and Trinity.
I'm grateful for the things that she did say so they can understand where I'm coming from.
She has no control. She gets upset and wants to see revenge in any way she can.
Those words are not from him. I know my son.
We had a good relationship before all of this transpired.
They don't get it.
Well, I hope that we can all eventually get back to that point for the sake of the kids.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, I don't think that there's a legal lesson there to learn, Sarah.
I know, it's just so unfortunate because I feel for the plaintiff. As a grandmother, as a mother, you try and do the right thing, and just to feel so taken advantage of. And I didn't hear a good reason. I was waiting the whole time to hear a good reason for why she was this terrible person that they had to move away from, but it never came.
Well, the only thing that I came up with was that she agreed to let them rent the house, rent to buy.
Yes.
Because they couldn't buy the house. They didn't have sufficient funds, but there was a condition. Now, she was living in